gentlemen, and welcome to the FV Bar. I'm your host, Jack George Maynard, and I'm joined by one of the finest Formula E journalists in the paddock, Nick Golding. Pico's in Turkey, probably getting himself some new teeth after chipping his. We had two enthralling races with tons of incidents. Did Cassidy allow the others back into the title fight? Was Mitch Evans' penalty fair in race 2? Should Pascal Wehrlein have got a penalty for staying out with his front wing stuck under his car? But it was De Costa who took 2 wins and forced himself into the championship fight. Lots to talk about today, so make sure you get in touch and call in the show by joining our Discord. Mr. Nick Golding, for whatever reason, oh, there you are, Mr. Nick Golding. You are finally here. You weren't on the screen for 2 seconds, but you're back on the screen. Don't know what happened there, but welcome back, co-hosting again.
Hello, I mean, first time felt so nice we had to do it twice. No, it's good to be back. It's been a crazy weekend. I've literally got back from Holland, where my work is based this morning, hence the Dutch top, up the Dutch cheese. But yeah, I mean, what a weekend.
Oh, I can imagine, like, with Formula 1, with the Euros, with Formula E as well. It was a packed day, especially England, mate. Oh my God, did you get to watch the England game?
No, I didn't even watch it because I was busy covering the fallout of Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Mate, I didn't even know that wasn't going to be the biggest story of the weekend because Mitch Evans takes that for me.
Oh my God, well, at least you didn't miss much as well. But so, as a show, last time Nick was on, what we did was a great one, actually. We did, what was it, the world's dumbest moments after me, like...
Yeah. It was struggles. We did struggles.
So we've got another one for today, right? For Oliver Rowland, right? So chat, this is what we want, right? When you come on and you come talk, but if you've got a story where you've either phoned in sick when you weren't sick, so what was your best sick notes to get out of, something, work or whatever, right? To go and do something by calling in sick, or what was the worst time that you were sick ever? Like, what was, oh my God, this was the worst, right? You don't have to go too much into detail, but
can I add some?
Go on.
If these are some outrageous stories, I don't know why this always happens now when I'm on that we have some kind of theme. Last time it was biggest struggles, and then my struggle was the worst. I have, believe it or not, an outrageous sick note story. So if we get, and we're going to rank it again, just so you know, because I love a ranking system, it's quite appealing. If we get a 5 out of 5, I will reveal at the end of the show my horrific, and by horrific I mean good, bad, I don't know what the right way of saying it is, sick note story. So there is your mission. Let's go.
Let's go. Right, so get in the waiting room. So if you're not in the waiting room yet, get in the waiting room. We've got a couple of people in there already, but we can get tons more. I want to hear from so many of you today because it was such an interesting race and there's so much to talk about. And I reckon everyone's got different opinions on everything, so make sure you get in there. If you're new, _Discord. If you put !Discord, you can jump in our Discord and then join the waiting room and you can come and speak to us. That's it. It's the only Formula E show where the fans get to have their say on the series. So I suppose we should start with, there's only one man to start with, right? And there's so many stories that we need to dive into, but the one story is Antonio Felix da Costa, right? Unless you were going to dive in, what were you going to dive in with?
I thought you were going to say Dan Tickton. I was being sarcastic. I mean...
Great qualifying from him, though.
Well, yeah, I don't really remember it in all honesty, because I think Antonio and Mitch kind of stole the show for completely different reasons. But, I mean, yeah, Antonio, was it 4 wins in the last 5 races or something ridiculous? I mean, imagine if he'd started the season well. Then if he'd done that, then even losing the win of Mazzano wouldn't even matter. Like, he's now in the championship fight technically.
Yeah.
There are 7 drivers, 7 still in contention in London, which sitting here now, from the moment the checker flag waved for Portland race 2, I already feel like the adrenaline, the excitement of knowing that we have a 7-way title fight just in the drivers' championship and Jaguar against Porsche and the teams. This might be a big call here. The most exciting climax of a season I think we've ever had in Formula E history, because going into Portland, I think we knew which way it was going to go. He was looking like Nick. It's wide open now. Antonio is the dark horse. The man is on a mission. He is the master of the peloton. Someone needs to take away his magic wand because he is just unstoppable at the moment.
No, he is. He's. A lot of people were saying to him in the media, has this come from Mazzano? Is this the anger of losing Mazzano, and that's kind of turn his mentality around, and these performances have come. What do you think to that theory? Do you think that's kind of true? Do you think that's something behind it? Because he kind of said no, because he said, I don't want to be angry every single time just to get a good result.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where of course, that impacted him. We all saw the emotions afterwards before the announcement was made. So I think it has to. And I think the big thing for a driver is how do you, and I'd love to know because it'd be quite useful in my line of work as well. How do you separate and kind of put those emotions and feelings under the carpet? I think it's got to be motivation for what he's gone on to do because he is. I think this is the best we have ever seen him drive. Even in the year he won the championship in season 6, I don't think I ever saw him race with so much confidence, with so much, not even aggression, just putting his car in the right place every single time. I just wish he started the season better because if he had, then we would generally be heading to London with the 2 Porsches against the 2 Jaguars. Of course, that is still the case, but really, Antonio needs a miracle in London. However, it seems he's kind of the miracle man at the moment.
No, he does indeed, and it's amazing because, like, when we had Tom Brooks on the show, right, we were talking about replacing DaCosta, and if DaCosta wasn't gonna, step in, and then you had Jake Dennis, and we were thinking putting Jake Dennis in the Porsche, and then obviously everything came out with Nico Muller. It's just incredible, and yeah, I wish he did start the season well because I think it'd be amazing if he was in it. But it just shows, even though he's won the most amount of races in Formula E so far this season, he's still an outside shot. He's still an outside shot. He's over 30 points behind. Like
33.
Really, 33. So
and ticked him.
Absolutely. So in terms of winning the championship in London, he's got to put it on pole both days and win both days really, and hope that the others don't finish second, third, fourth, or fifth.
I mean, you say that, but does he? I mean, Jaguar are going to be strong in London. It's a circuit that really suits them. The thing that I would say is that prior to Portland and prior to Pro Shanghai, I would have said that, London's going to be a nightmare for DaCosta because he can't qualify. Well, actually, he's qualified now pretty well in the last 3 races. And you look at him thinking the motivation, the confidence he's got, and the momentum he's now got behind him as well. There's no reason why he can't go and stick it on the first couple of rows in London and give himself a real chance. I honestly think he's got, despite the point deficit, a better chance than Pascal. Pascal, I don't see him winning the title this year, to be honest. I think he's been consistent, but he's also getting himself in incidents too often. I know we'll get on to, obviously, front wing gate, I'm going to call it. Antonio has that experience of winning a title, and he knows what he's got to do. He knows he needs 2 perfect races, but the thing is, though, he's needed perfect races in Portland and Shanghai to be in this position now, and he's done that. You look at Jaguar, and they've been making mistakes all of a sudden in Portland. It feels like and I've said that, and I've said this already, probably gonna say it 50 more times in the next 2 hours. It just feels like London is going to be something so special, and you've also got to take into account it's London, it's the UK. This summer has been miserable. Is it even going to be dry? Okay, half it will be because it's inside before people joke about that in the comment section.
It wasn't dry last year.
Last year was horrific. It
was.
I'm so excited for London. I can't wait to get there already. It's just, I can't call it. I genuinely can't call it. And Antonio has put himself in the position to do it. And he doesn't need to win both races. If Nick and Mitch and Pascal don't all score big points, Antonio could quite easily get maybe a third and a second place, and maybe a pole position or a fastest lap, and all of a sudden he could win it by a few points. It could swing so much, and can we just get to London, please?
Yeah, if Cassidy retires and DaCosta wins that first race,
you imagine
all bets are off, right? And even depending on where Evans and Verline come, it's interesting with Verline because I've said for a while I don't think he's aggressive enough, right? And I was listening to his team radio, because I thought, okay, might be an interesting team radio to sort of listen to. And you can just tell in the car in those final couple of laps where he's just a little bit frantic in terms of he really wanted De Costa to let Frines through for whatever reason, and
Yeah.
it was just like, it was just felt like a bit all over the place. And then they were telling him, keep up with them, and mate, you're not keeping up with them. You're like, you're a second back, like, and the team were like, you need to stay. So it's just, I think, like, aggressive enough sometimes at Verline.
The thing as well is Porsche have got a problem because, we all expected Jaguar would, seal the team's championship in Portland. That didn't happen. In fact, Porsche are now right back in that with every single chance of winning the team's championship. This puts Porsche in a really difficult position because in the drivers' championship, we knew that Mitch and Nick were both going to be in the fight, and odds on there's not going to be team orders there. I've already been told that and everything because they both got a chance.
Yeah.
Mitch has said himself, as soon as he's out of contention, even if not mathematically, if it's just simply realistically too big a gap, he'll be wingman, absolutely fine. Porsche are now in a situation where, particularly in the first race now, in London race 1 on the Saturday, they've got to let both drivers race. And I think Pascal in race 2 was kind of thinking that, Antonio was kind of his wingman in a way, and Antonio should have, protected him a bit more. Pascal now has kind of blown the chance of being the lead driver fighting for Porsche in the title, because Antonio, like I've said, is the man on a mission. He's the man with all the momentum, and Porsche have got to give them both now a fair chance, because based on form, you've got to argue that it's Antonio who's got the best chance despite the points deficit. And like I said, with Pascal, he just gets himself in so many little incidents, and there are times where he's just too aggressive. And I know I'm probably gonna be wrong. I don't see him winning the title. I just think he makes the wrong decisions at the wrong times, and that's going to cost him, because London is a track where these small incidents, which you get away with at the likes of Portland and Shanghai, you won't in London because it's such a tight circuit. If you lose a front wing, really, you're screwed because it's such tighter corners. I think Porsche have got a bit of a headache. They've got to decide, are they now going to fight for the team championship, or do they? That's new. Do they give both drivers? Do they give both drivers now a fighting chance at the drivers, which I think they've got to? Antonio is not going to accept now being second when he's in this position, and it's the whole Jaguar Porsche thing, because neither team has a second driver to protect them in a way, because it's going to be 4 drivers from 2 teams all in with a shout at the championship. It's fascinating. It's such a good story. Can we get to London?
Yeah.
That's the 3rd time.
I can't
Please.
wait. I can't wait.
Now,
I can't wait to be back. I was watching Portland and just missing, thinking, I wish I was there. And I had some good friends I had friends from the Grid Network there, so they were helping out some stuff over the weekend. So props to them. But we got to talk, right? And as much as I could say for Antonio Fitzcosta, just to end on that, I think if Verline qualifies on pole, and I think in London it's a track where he could qualify on pole, I think that's probably the best way for Verline to go about an attack. If he doesn't qualify on pole, then I'm probably in agreement with you that he probably won't win that title. But we have to move on to one of the most controversial stories. And chat, we really want to hear your opinion, right, on this. And even if you want to message your opinion in chat, get into the waiting room and tell us your opinion on the show. Mitch Evans, right? This was
who wants
mad.
to start?
This was mad. Right, so I'll start.
We've got different opinions as well, because
I'll start,
before.
right?
We think very differently about this. Go on.
I've kind of changed my view because I watched it today, but
Here we go.
But watching the highlights today, but that from one angle, I was like, okay, I get it. From one angle, I get it. But when I watched it first time, I went Stonewall penalty. He's just driven into the back of him. Right, because they had an angle coming out of the shot round towards turn 9, and he just hits him into the back, and you think, yeah, penalty, no excuses. And I said that on commentary on the Joshua Birch's commentary channel when I was doing the watch along. I said, yeah, it's a Stonewall penalty. I've seen it, and he just literally driven in the back of him. He can't have any complaints, right? And then I've watched it slightly today. In the highlights, and there's just the onboard version, and I get Everton's point where Hughes is slightly potentially from that shot looks like he's come across and clipped wings, but the shot prior to that, where it looks like Evans is racing flat out alongside him, and Hughes has kind of come across not as fast, misjudging, and this can happen with the peloton style races, and it looks more like a misjudgment. So, to be honest with you, I'm going to stand by it. I think the 5-second penalty is fair.
Is it my turn now?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Not in a million years is that a penalty. It's one of the most outrageous penalties I've ever seen. They've awarded a penalty based on the outcome. Had Jake Hughes not gotten a puncher, that's not a penalty. It's where is Mitch supposed to go? I've watched several angles, and it's really hard because I get on with both drivers really, really well. You know, it's probably the two drivers I'm closest to in the paddock. Mitch drove in a straight line. He did not change his position. Jake, obviously, at that a few seconds before that, took his attack mode. So he was naturally, obviously, did his attack mode, and then was coming back onto the racing line.
Yes.
Mitch was already inside, so that's where the point has come. Jake didn't see him, because obviously at that point, Mitch was in his blind spot. And at the same time, Mitch, there was nothing he could do. And the thing that's ridiculous that I've read is that the stewards are saying that Mitch should have slowed down. Slow down in the peloton when you're going at, the fastest circuit on the calendar, the highest average top speed, something a record formerly broke in race 1. I don't get it. What is the point of giving that as a penalty when there are so many other incidents this year which haven't been penalised? Mitch is the driver who's complained about the stewards the most, and he holds his hands up to that. And he's one of the most honest drivers as well, and actually with the experience he's got, you listen to him too. I don't get it, because this is something that genuinely could decide the championship. He leads this championship if he's not given that penalty. I don't get it. And it's the same problem in Formula 1, where penalties are being given based on the outcome, not based on the incident itself. This was nothing more than a racing incident. Mitch had nowhere to go. Jake didn't see Mitch. The only reason there's being a penalty is because Jake's been had a puncher, and obviously it ruined his race. I don't get it. This to me ruins races, and in this case could quite literally ruin potentially Mitch's best ever chance for a championship. There's been a massive issue with stewards this season because they're just not being consistent. There are so many calls where you're expecting a penalty and there's not one given, and on the flip side there are some things which should never be a penalty, like what happened with Mitch, and yet one was given. There's just no. And as a fan as well, I'm forgetting the fact I'm a journalist or a Formula E reporter, whatever. As a fan, it's so difficult to follow because all of a sudden, and I've seen it, I've spoken to people, there are some people who it was their first time watching Formula E. Fair play as well, if it was their first time from England, they're up until 10, 11 p.m. But it's like, they're wondering, what the hell? The race winners finished 8th because of a penalty of something they don't understand. It's just, and the thing is, I'm sorry, I'm going on a massive rant now.
Go on. It makes sense. Get off your chest.
It was decided quite literally within a couple of minutes after the incident happened. Never in hell should that should have been left until after the race. Listen to both drivers, listen to the views, and then penalise or take more time. The thing as well that's in Mitch's favour is so many drivers have agreed. What the hell was Mitch supposed to do? There was nowhere for him to go. If he does what the stewards have said and slows down more, he gets a car in the back of him, and that's their Mitch out the race, and odds on the car behind them getting a penalty based on what happened in the Mitch and Jake case. I don't get it. And the thing that worries me is we're going to track, London, which is tight, where we see, as we saw last season, how many cars finished without a front wing. We see these kind of pincer incidents or cutting across incidents almost every single lap in London. Does this mean we're going to have no cars finishing in London or no cars not getting penalised? It's just, I want consistent stewarding. We need to have an ex-Formula E driver in there every single week, every single race, because that's the only way you're going to get consistency. And I know you're going to show it in a second, but Mitch Evans' line was perfect.
I haven't got it, actually.
Anyway, so those who missed it in the press conference on Sunday despite finishing on the podium where you think Mitch would be happy, he was still absolutely livid. And he was asking about the frustrations. And he basically brushed aside the fact he got a podium and was still so set on what happened Saturday because he knows that's the moment they could lose in the championship. Last year it was Rome, and he accepts that was his fault. He still talks about that today. I spoke to him about that last week. This is now a case of where this could be his fault. This could be the thing that loses in the championship, and it's something completely out of his control, and something he should never have got a penalty for. in the press conference afterwards, he said that the stewards have consistently been inconsistent, which is
What the drivers have been saying
true.
for ages, right?
It was consistently inconsistent, which is ironic. That was the line. And it's just, it gets me angry because I love this sport and we all want to see the championship won by the best driver, not won because of a decision that has, if Mitch loses the championship, let's say by 5 or 6 points, there is going to be a the fallout of after this season is going to be horrific because people will be doing the maths. If Mitch loses the championship by the number of points he would have got had he won in London, had he won and been kept the win for Mazzano. Sorry, I'm getting such a random thing. What I'm saying. If Mitch loses the championship basically Portland, by the number of points that he would have got from winning the race in Portland, the fallout is going to be horrible. And this is the kind of thing that can make drivers leave the championship because it's not enjoyable for a lot of these drivers when they have no idea if an incident's going to get penalised or not. It's just rant over. Let's see what the people think because, yeah.
Yeah, because for me, like, if you think about the consequence, and they said the consequence for let's use like the Max Verstappen Lando Norris.
But that's the thing. How can you
now? Max Verstappen got a 10-second time penalty, right, for that race, but it didn't affect his race at all, right? The penalty was technically losing the race win, but then you had people there say that the consequence that was a nothing penalty. They said that's a nothing penalty, didn't match the crime because the consequence to Lando Norris's race, right, and people made the argument for Max Verstappen's, and I know Sam Bird said in the driver's room, right, they're looking at the consequence, and I get that because these races are so tight and they're so different.
It is,
right?
That's so wrong though.
But then Jake Hughes' race for no fault of his own, you could argue, was ruined. I'm not saying that's right, by the way. I'm just saying that this is what other people say. Like if you take people moaned that Max Verstappen penalty wasn't harsh enough. Like for example, Silverstone 2021 when Hamilton crashed into Verstappen at Cops. I didn't think a 10-second penalty was matched the crime there, and because I knew Hamilton would go on to win the race. I was like, what penalty did he get? So I get that side of things, but I get where Evans is coming from. When I see the driver on view, when you see the off-board view, it looks like he's just driven straight into the back of him. You're like, yeah, hands up. But I do see from the in-car footage. But what amazes me the most, right, is that, yes, you're right. I probably agree. They probably could have waited and maybe had a balanced decision and talked about it. But he got a penalty point for that. He didn't just get 5 seconds. He got a penalty point on his license. So they really felt that he could. I thought maybe he could have lifted off. Alan McNish said that he could have. Why is he sticking his nose in there? So I think Alan McNish was also a little bit on the fence to like, oh, I can see why the stewards went that way. But I suppose that maybe Alan McNish trying to be as impartial as possible.
Here's the argument. By the way, for people that are watching thinking, what's Nick looking at? My phone is down below and I'm reading all the comments as it's coming in. Here's my argument. Here's what really annoyed me from Portland. So Mitch got a penalty. Okay, whether it was right or wrong. What was worse, that or Pascal completing an entire lap with a front wing underneath his car completely dislodged that almost caused a horrific crash for Sam Bird? How the hell Pascal did not get penalised when the following lap you had four or five drivers all pit for new front wings? We've got to introduce a rule where if you have front wing damage, because yes, these cars, because there's such a lack of downforce, these cars can still run effectively without a front wing. If there's front wing damage, they've got to be made to pit because Pascal should never have been allowed to have gone at top speed, with a front wing which had no connection to his car. Sam could have easily gone airborne in that. That could have been a complete identical incident to what happened to Nico Müller last year. And that was a 27G accident. That was massive.
Yep.
And this is what I mean by there's no consistency. How are you penalising Mitch when if he'd slowed down, a car goes to the back of him. If he goes right, he's on the grass and odds-on spins and has cars plowing into him at high speed. If he goes to his left, there's another car there, so he's then boxed in. He didn't change his direction, he stayed straight. Whereas Pascal, knowingly, he knew he had front wing damage. You could see it, he would have felt it when driving because of the vibrations, because it was literally lodged under the car. How is he then being allowed to go at full speed with a front wing dislodged that's then gone underneath the car, and they've been struck at probably 160 miles an hour, 170 miles an hour by Sam Bird. Even Jean-Eric Vergne, the bits of Pascal's front wing, hit him in the helmet.
Yeah.
You know,
It was mad
this
from
is
the FIA.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous,
It
and
was mad.
they've got to start every single time, and it's going to happen in London as well because we saw it last year. If a front wing is broken or damaged, as we see in Formula One, if it is structurally damaged and has the risk of falling off, if it's just an end plate, that's a different story, you know, because that's then still structurally intact.
Yeah, got you.
If the front wing is no longer structurally intact, they've got to be given a black and orange, the meatball flag to pit.
Yeah.
But it's just, it just frustrates me because it's just, you know, we could have had such a big crash at a track which is so quick, the quickest on the calendar, and it is, my journalist has gone off for
the thing is, right, before we start taking some calls, because we're having a great chat, and I love it, and I want to get your
It's a
opinions
debate.
in,
This
right?
is what I came on for. Come on.
This is because we'll talk about Cassidy later, but we'll talk Verline now very quickly before we go to some calls, right?
Yeah.
I agree with Porsche, though. I do agree with Porsche. We know, right, that these cars don't need a front wing, or this front wing does absolutely nothing, right?
Yeah.
So, if the FIA aren't telling me to pit, I am pitting. I'll run around with it until it pray it dislodges itself. Pray it dislodges itself, and that doesn't happen. Where it hits Sandberg and pray that doesn't happen. Cool, we got away with it, right? Cool, we got away with it. But the FIA never, ever, ever, ever raised that flag. Never said, please bring that car in, right? Because Porsche went, well, we don't need that part, and clearly they didn't need that part. We even saw the Nissan of Sasha. I know he pitted, but like he had no front wing in that incident, and he was able to.
There were several drivers.
There were several drivers that didn't have front wings and were able to carry on. So they took a risk, Porsche, and that risk worked. They ended up getting a 4th place. They don't get that 4th place if they pit. So it worked, but it was not right, and the FIA, I do agree massively, need to do something about it.
It worked by putting other drivers at risk. They took the gamble and hoped that it wouldn't completely go under the car and be hit by somebody else, let alone at the second fastest point on the circuit. And this is why, because yes, you're absolutely right. The Formula E cars, and Porsche are right, the Formula E cars can run that front wing and not lose too much performance, really, only really in the high speed stuff. The problem here is, one, it makes the sport look silly.
Yep. 100%.
Okay, when you've and like London last year was ridiculous. You had like half the field without a front wing. It looks silly. It's a bad image for the sport. Formula One, very much the rule is that if it's just an end plate or something, is that an end plate is, for those who are unaware with the technical parts of F1. If you imagine a front wing, the end plates are the bits on the end of like a plate basically. If one of those falls off through contact or something, they're allowed to continue. However, if the front wing becomes structurally damaged, so you see it wobbling, which we saw, even Mitch Evans' front wing was wobbling quite a bit. If the front wing is structurally damaged and has the risk of falling off, then they are showing the meatball flag, the flag that's black with an orange circle in the middle. Then obviously they have to pit for repairs. This has to be used more often in Formula because it just doesn't look good when you've got 10, 11 cars without a front wing, because it then, I can't remember who said it, it turns it into bump cars basically. Yeah. And that's not a good look. We want the cars to be, you know, with all their parts still looking good, demonstrating Formula technology, rather than 10 cars and one of the guys on the podium finishing without a front wing. You know, and it puts other drivers at risk. And that's the whole thing around safety, is that, you know, Sam hit a entire front wing at 160, 170. It might have been faster than that. You know, he is so lucky that he didn't get hurt, because that could have been a horrific crash. So there's a driver safety element. Again, Porsche did a gamble and it worked, but it's just, it doesn't sit right with me. That would, Porsche, I'm not blaming Pascal. Porsche put other drivers at risk, and you could see the damage. And, you know, because they got the championship at stake, they obviously made him continue. It's just, and because it put Pascal at risk as well. He was going so, you know, he could have
crashed.
And this is the problem with the consistency of the stewards, in that, you know, Mitch gets a 5-second penalty for something that was completely out of his control, whereas Pascal was fully in control of what happened, yet got a 4th place, I think it was, in the end in that race. So it's just, I would rather see drivers been shown the black and orange flag, having to pit for new front wings rather than scattering debris across the circuit, which is what led to the safety car because there was so much carbon fiber across the circuit, mainly from Pascal.
Yep.
And it's just the fact that Vern got straight, and he got hit on the helmet by a piece of flying debris from Pascal's car. How can that be allowed? We have seen what happened to Felipe Massa back in 2009 when he got a spring through the visor. Okay, it's got a bit more weight to it than carbon fiber, but it's just. I'm in a ranty mood.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I love it. This is what we want. Right, let's get some calls in.
I want fairness, basically. So yeah, let's see what the people feel. I just want fairness.
Let's get some calls in, and
let's go.
We'll talk later. I'm going to bring in Blake first. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in Blake first. Okay. Blake, that was a big bang. Big bang, Blake.
Yeah, fell through.
Well, big bang to start the proceedings.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. You're on the FE bar. What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Antonio Felix da Costa.
Right, let's talk about Tony. Let's calm down. Let's calm down the show. Let's talk
about. Hold on. I'm just
slow it down. I know what you guys have been talking about. The good old-fashioned meatball flag and how dangerous it is. We know about that, but I want to talk about Antonio Felix da Costa. My, I haven't seen Antonio Felix da Costa pull that kind of performance since 2020, almost 4 years ago. Three races in a row that he's won now. And it makes you to wonder, if Felix da Costa can continue this form, do you think Porsche can regret? Do you think Porsche is going to regret the decision of trying to quote unquote sell him out, or Porsche can use this as an opportunity to win the team's championship?
Can I throw back a question?
Go.
I said, do you think Antonio Felix da Costa?
No. I've got a question for you. A question for you.
Oh, right. Okay. Go ahead.
My bad. Sorry. Okay. Do you think? Really good question. Do you think, had Porsche not done that, Antonio would be in his current form?
Wait. Porsche done what? I'm not very clear.
If Porsche hadn't done the Nico Muller thing, would Antonio be winning these races?
100. Yeah, I would say yeah. 100%, yeah.
It's an interesting point because it was a bold thing. It was a really bold thing Porsche did, and it obviously put him under a lot of pressure. And thankfully, he's obviously now doing the performances to show that he deserves that seat. And he's in the championship fight, which, let's be honest, after the first few rounds, I don't think any of us thought he'd be fighting for the top 10 in the championship, let alone the title itself.
No.
Yeah, it's a big turnaround for his entire season, especially the last 3 performances he did in Shanghai and the 2 Portland races. It's like he's almost like gone off a really good trajectory.
Oh, he's gone deafened. I don't know what's happened there. You may have. He's gone deafened. I don't know what he's done there, but
is deafened a word?
Yes, I don't know, but it is on. Hello, Blake. You deafened yourself. You're back.
Yeah, as a cat just burst into my room. So.
Hello. Yeah. What's your cat's name?
Yeah.
Bossy or Blossom.
Oh, nice. Oh. For the cherry blossom for Nissan.
Right. Yeah. It kind of. I wasn't expecting da Costa to be up there at all this, especially the first couple of races. I thought da Costa's way off, but it kind of I think Porsche's threats. Oh, I don't know how to say it. It's like it's almost as if Porsche's threats kind of like had a knock-on effect on da Costa, saying, okay, if you don't perform now, this is going to happen to you, and A, B, and C, and etc.
Yeah.
It's almost like Porsche's like pushing da Costa to do well instead of just like a nudge. But
I don't know. I don't know, Nick. I don't know what you know, right? And this is interesting, Blake, because in the press conference on Sunday's race, he said he was angry. Right, he was going through his emotions. He was quite emotional, right? He was quite emotional. Very like, I never know. I need to enjoy these moments. I don't know if I'll ever be on the podium again. X, Y, and Z. He's learned from Mazzano that he needs to just enjoy the moment. I assume, but he said he was angry. So I'm going to throw this to you, Nick. I don't know if you know, and Blake. Do you think he's angry because he has lost his seat?
I
Do you think he's actually gone? Because why would he say he's angry? That's what questioned me. It was a weird statement to say.
It could be multiple things. It could be multiple things. It could be angry because yeah. What's doing to say it could be one or two. It could be angry about this kind of type of style of racing and the way he won it. It could be another factor, but I think it's more likely to be A because I think Porsche is just looking for a replacement at the moment. But at the moment, it's not looking too well for them since Da Costa just pulled literally a hat-trick of wins out of nowhere. So, yeah.
What do you think, Mr.
So
Mr.
from what
Golding?
from what I've heard, a decision for next season still hasn't been made. Obviously, his recent form is working in his favour. The big thing here, though, is that Antonio wants to return to the World Endurance Championship.
And he said that in the press conference.
He did. The whole thing, he was at Le Mans supporting Team Jota, who was a team obviously he raced for. He has made it very clear he wants to return. And the whole thing with Porsche this season was that they effectively told him, sorry, you can't do your work. We want you to sell 100% on Formula E. As we saw at the start of the season, that strategy didn't work because Antonio did not start the season well. So I think the whole thing with his comments is a mixture of knowing that actually he's been exceptional this season, but he started poorly.
Yeah.
He knows full well that if he'd started the season, if he'd performed better and just won, one of the opening 3 races, then he would be properly in the championship fight, if not, potentially leading it. There's a good chance that his start of the season has ruined his chances. And you've also got, Mazzano also plays a part because that's also significant because if you, take away 25, his deficit of 25 points, then he's only 8 points behind. It'll be even less than that because obviously that would have had a ramification for all the other drivers. They would have scored a couple of less points. So it's a mixture of things. It's a mixture of Mazzano. It's a mixture of the fact he knows that he didn't start the season well. And, had one of those things gone his way, then he'd be potentially the favourite going into London to claim a second Formula E title and technically his first Formula E world title because obviously when he won it in season 6 we weren't yet then classed as an FIA World Championship.
Blake, any 6 stories? I know you're I think 17.
Yeah, here we go.
Right, any 6 stories? Have you ever turned up to school or college or wherever you are because you were sick, or what's the worst you've been sick?
I warned you, these are being ranked again, by the way.
Blake,
so we need a 5 out of 5.
Oliver Rowland missed the rake weekend. I wonder how you can't obviously say how ill he was, but because obviously you'll get done for libel. But it must have been a big illness for him to miss 2 races. So Blake, fire away. What have you got?
To be honest, there's so many stories I could think of, but I don't think
Go on, Blake. This is not peer pressure, by the way. You
know what? Just my memory. I'll just tell you my recent one. My recent sickness was actually during my exams. After what was it? I think it's like a week before the test. I accidentally drank a little bit too much of caffeine, and
was
then
it the old Red Bulls?
No, not Red Bull coffee. Okay. When I drank like 3. I drank like 3 during the day, and then out of nowhere, at 11 o'clock at night, I started to feel funny, and then I realized what's about to happen. I was about to walk up to the toilet, and then out of nowhere, I bloody puked twice.
Oh, you puked. I'm not gonna lie, my mind went completely somewhere else.
We went down south. We were quite happy you didn't say
We went down south.
Yeah.
We went to the South Pole.
Yeah, we went to the South Pole.
Down to Antarctica.
No, but where were you sick? Like you weren't sick at school?
In my bedroom.
In your bedroom.
In my bedroom.
Oh, it wasn't on the cat, was it?
No.
Okay, phew,
it's on the carpet.
That's not good to clean.
But guess what the worst part is? It stank. That sick actually stank for a week.
Oh god. It's stuck in the carpet.
That was the worst
part. I think
part.
that adds to the score, by the way.
It stank for a week.
I think that adds to the score.
Yeah.
See, my problem with that would be if that was me who had done that. If I could still smell the sick, then I would just keep being sick every time I smell it.
Yeah.
I think that's a solid.
I think that's a good 3.5.
I'd go 3.5. I like that.
3.5.
Blake,
It's a solid
guess what,
start,
Blake?
Blake.
You are in first place, my friend.
First place in the 6 stories.
Yes.
And courtesy of Oliver Rowland. So well done. Well done. So chat, if you've got any,
Courtesy of Oliver
again,
Rowland.
if you've got any, you don't even have to talk Formula E, right? If you just want to come on and talk about when you were sick, or a story, it doesn't have to be a sick story, right? Where you were physically sick. It can be a story where you've said you're sick to get out of something.
I've just seen the comment.
to do something, right? Right? Suddenly I lost my appetite.
Sorry, Ali.
Sorry, Ali. Get in the waiting room, right? We'd love to hear from you. Right, what we're going to do is we'll take one more call and we're going to take a break because we're going to do a special Nick at 9 where we'll be answering your questions and then we'll be joined by Jack Smith from Motorsport News a bit roughly after, but we'll take a couple more calls before, so we'll run up till just before 9 o'clock. So we've got about 14 minutes to take some of your calls. Blake, thank you so much. We're going to drop you back in and we're going to go and get Nikki because Nikki, she's got tasty stories, I think. Nikki! You're on the FE bar. Can you hear us?
I can, loud and clear, fellas. Let me
Lovely-
turn my tablet down.
stuff.
Hello.
Right. Producers say you've got a bit of a rant to tell us. What do you want to tell us?
Wait, where do I start? Where do I start?
At the beginning, I want the full story.
Go on. And you got back on
Basically-
Instagram. We want to know how it happened as well.
Let's keep it PG.
Yeah,
it's not
PG.
9 o'clock yet.
I'll try, but I'm very frustrated.
This is okay.
Where do I start? I'll start with Mitch first, right? I personally believe, looking back at it overnight, it was partly Jake's fault and partly Mitch's fault. So as far as I see that incident, it was more Jake than it was Mitch, in my opinion.
Fez, he did come across.
And I also feel that the FIA are getting sort of a little bit like they're doing Formula One. They're not consistent with their penalties. And I think that's starting to spoil it for me because like people like Sam and Antonio getting penalties. Obviously, Sam's in China was justified. But then the Antonio one was not justified. And as been discussed, that could have...
the Misano one.
Yeah, that could have wrecked his championship, and the same with Mitch on Saturday. That's now wrecked his chances of the championship.
The only problem is with Antonio's is that rules are rules, right? So if you break a rule, if you've got a part that shouldn't be on the car, or you know,
But then in my opinion, then it should be the team that get the
throttle
punishment
sensor, whatever it was. But
Yeah,
then the way you
I get that.
the way you punish a team though is to disqualify the car, right? Because the car's illegal.
Yeah.
So if the car's illegal,
it's
it's not fair,
it's
right?
similar. It's similar to Formula One in a way because obviously when you see, for example, a team doing an unsafe release from a pit stop, that's not the driver's fault. That's the pit crew's fault. Yeah, it's the driver who gets the penalty. It's unfortunately Antonio. It wasn't his. Mazzano was not his fault at all. It was something the team had done, but unfortunately because it was his car, he's got to take the consequence. But I agree. It is really really harsh. Yeah, especially the Mitch one.
And the other one is obviously what happened yesterday with Sam, and you knew that was going to come up, right?
Yeah.
To me, Pascal should have had a black flag or a black and orange flag.
Yep.
Because to me, that was totally dangerous.
Yeah, agree. It should have been black and orange. Completely agree.
I totally agree. I was listening to the radio thing, and I totally agree with what Sam said, that it was unfair, and potentially he could have got a podium yesterday or good points for the team.
Mm-hmm.
So that is like going from one extreme to another, isn't it? That was dangerous because Sam could have spun out. He could have spun out back into the track, and it could have been a 3 or 4 pile up.
Yeah, it could have been quite easily.
Right.
It was scary. It was really scary.
And then we could have ended up with a worse situation than we had in Rome in 23, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we could have. And we're lucky that we didn't because it is a circuit. So you could say, one up for circuits. But then I'll throw this question back to both of you, I suppose. And I know your thoughts on this, Nikki. But does this show that the peloton style of racing doesn't work?
the peloton style racing works, but and this is going to be controversial with what I'm going to say. It's the FIA that are inconsistent with their penalties, in my opinion.
But is it
That's
the
not
penalty?
controversial. It's bang on.
But is it the penalties though? Is it the FIA's fault? It's not the FIA's fault, right? I know what you mean, but what I'm saying is for the peloton style race, like the drivers are the ones crashing into each other, right? If the drivers don't crash into each other, right, we don't have this problem, right? But the drivers are crashing into each other, losing front wings. Therefore, surely the peloton style racing isn't working.
But I'm going to throw something back at you because now I'm getting used to it. I do like that style of racing because then it's not boring. But that where is the justifier? Where do we justify it as safe? If that makes sense. Like, do we rewrite the rules for Formula E and have stricter rules regarding crashing into each other, which then makes it less exciting? Or do we try and find a different style of racing that's still as exciting as the peloton style?
I still don't think it's exciting.
I mean, the thing is though, we're gonna next season, having seen the calendar, we're naturally gonna see a lot less of this because we're actually losing a lot of the permanent circuits. So obviously next year, permanent circuit wise, it's only really Miami and Shanghai. Berlin, all right, kind of a peloton.
Permanent
Shanghai.
They could change that track again, but I don't know what they could do.
Yeah,
anyway.
Sao Paulo obviously is my favourite venue personally, so I think it works.
Well, obviously, it was my favourite this year, obviously. But you know what I mean.
And I just, it's a weird one because the start of the race I think is so difficult to follow, and where all the drivers are going so slow to, manage their energy. You see so many silly incidents which cause, these front wings to become damaged.
But that was dangerous what happened yesterday. In my opinion, that was dangerous what happened yesterday.
It was completely dangerous, and I completely agree with you. He should have been shown a black and orange flag and been made to have come into the pits for a new front wing.
But luckily, Sam's an experienced driver, so maybe that's what stopped him from spinning. Maybe it was his experience, or maybe he just knew before it happened. But if that had been sort of rookie or an inexperienced driver, would that have been more serious?
I think
never know.
I think regardless of how experienced the driver is, it was a dangerous situation. It should never have happened, and Pascal should have been made to have come into the pits for a new front wing. As I mentioned earlier on the show, a lap later we saw both Nissans. We saw Sam Bird obviously pit for a new front wing. We saw Nick Cassidy, Jake Dennis, all pit for new front wings, and they had less damage than Pascal. So it's one of those things where I do think we need. You're never going to get rid of contact in racing. It's just, especially when we have the peloton, it's going to happen, unfortunately. But there needs to be a rule on how much damage is allowed to be raced with. Because for me, as I mentioned, I don't think it looks right when you've got cars completing 75% of the race with no front wing. It just, I personally don't get it. And I agree with you.
Personally, you wouldn't see that in Formula One because they're made to pit. They're made to get the black flag or they get disqualified. So why is it then that the FIA can't have the same rule in Formula E? Because if I remember rightly, didn't they not have that in Gen 2? Where they had the black and orange flag?
Oh yeah, well they would have. The black and orange flag's been in existence for years, so yes, they would have had it.
So why is it not used for safety? Do you know what I'm saying?
So the big difference is obviously with Formula E and Formula One. Formula One, there's a significantly higher amount of downforce. So quite simply, they can't race at high speeds without a front wing. Whereas in Formula E, because of the kind of cars we have, to put it simply, it is possible. It's just, and this will be really interesting, particularly next season, if given how much faster the cars are going to be, and also in Gen 4 when it's going to be even quicker. Is this going to be something that will still be possible? Will the drivers still be able to race without a front wing? So, like I said, in London, we're going to see the same thing again. We're going to see loads of drivers without front wings, but hopefully next season, the drivers aren't able to race without a front wing because that will make them have to pit. But yeah, I don't agree with what happened. I think it was completely wrong, and Pascal should have been made to pit for a new front wing.
I totally agree with you, Nick. Not because Sam's my favourite driver. I mean, that could have been any of the drivers. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And I truly believe that McLaren, if those two incidents that hadn't happened with Jake and Sam could have ended up in a positive position, maybe top 10. But we'll never know now because they had the pace in qualifying, they had the pace in the race.
Yep.
McLaren looked great, and both Jake and Sam qualified really well.
Yep.
Obviously Jake got unfortunate. Obviously, it was just the racing. It was one of those things with Mitch.
Exactly.
And yes, they again had good pace, and it was just unfortunately Formula E just
like that. It's been like
Formula
that
E.
all season.
How many times have I said that? Formula E is Formula E, right? When is Formula E just not Formula E, right? Nikki, right? I do want to try and squeeze in one more before we get to 9 o'clock because I do want to take a quick break.
Excuse me a second. Let's say this one last thing. I'm not disputing anything, right? But I'm just having my opinion and getting it out there.
No, that's fine. No. That's what the whole.
Of course, it's amazing. I agree with you.
That's what the whole. That's what the whole point.
Right.
Just what the whole point of the show is. Nikki, before we go, because we are doing it. If you have a sick story, if you don't have a sick story, that's fine. But if you have a sick story, either time you phoned up sick for work to get out of something, right? To get out of being at work, bit like Oliver Rowland. Not saying that he got out of it on purpose, but or when you were just really ill and something that was just really bad.
Funnier the better.
But funnier the better.
It's not funny, this one. I went to a hospital for an operation. I came round from the operation. They gave me morphine, and it made me violently sick for 2.5 days.
Ugh, not good.
That's quite a good sick story. It's not funny at all.
Not funny.
No, it's not funny at all.
Funny, but it's a good sick story.
So now I'm allergic to morphine because of it.
Probably for the best.
I
don't know what to give that one. I think a solid 3.
Neither do I. Okay, give it a 3.
Give it 3. Solid 3.
I feel like we're being really mean.
Really mean. Solid 3. 3. No humour. That's it. It would have been 3.5 if it weren't for the humour. But Nikki,
a really bad sick story, and I'm glad you're okay.
You're okay, right?
Yeah,
Jack's the one who said it's not funny, not me. I'm the nice one.
Yeah.
Right. Nikki, thank you so much for popping on.
No problem, fellas.
Right, what we're going to do is we're going to try and get... I was going to get Natalie on, but we've got a couple of fresh faces, so I'm going to get one of the fresh faces in before we can say hello to them, and we're going to get Ali in. They're muted at the moment, but hopefully when they realise that we're in. Ali, welcome to the FE bar. I hope you can hear me. I know you're muted at the moment, so hopefully you can unmute. Hello, Ali. Welcome to the FE bar. What would you like to talk about?
Ali.
Honestly, I just think it's really interesting to talk about how cool the championship's going to be at London. It's going to be a massive finale, and I'm really excited.
Are you going to London?
Yes.
Go, Ali.
Oh, awesome! I'm in London.
Come on.
Mr. Golden will be in London. I'm sure we have to do a meetup. I don't
I
know
will
what
be
day
there.
we're going to do a meetup.
I will be running around like a madman.
Are you there both days, Saturday, Sunday?
Interviews, exclusives.
Yeah. I'm.
Yes, Ali.
Oh, we need to find
Me
out.
and my dad are
Discord.
both going.
We need to find out.
Right, we're doing a Discord. We'll get a massive group photo for those who want to be in it. We'll do a meetup.
Where can we do it? There's a bar outside. There's the bar where Maserati
And what I will
did
do
it.
for those as well for those who don't have pit lane access for the autograph session, I will go and grab loads.
Mate, I did that. I did that last time. Gave out to the kids. Did it in Berlin. Did you see my...
also something I can't.
About.
Sorry. Yeah, we've very quickly something that's brought on a brilliant point. Make sure, and it's a bit of a plug, you are following Mahindra on Instagram and also the company I work for, Racing News 365, because we're doing in London I'll tell Jack after we finish this, an insane giveaway. The thing we are giving away is actually worth quite a lot of money. I don't know how we've pulled it off. So yes, but come on, London, let's go.
Come on. Right, Ali.
Up the
championship.
London.
What do you want to talk about with the championship then? Come on. First time caller. Let's get out there.
Yeah, I just think it's so crazy to see there's like 5 different people that could potentially win it. Like some are more out there shots.
7.
I think.
It's 7.
It's done the math.
I've done the maths. It's 7.
I thought it was just down to 5 now, but 7's insane.
I tweeted it.
There's a few. Obviously, some of them are long shots. Really and truly, for me, it's Evans, Da Costa, and Verline. Right, Evans, maybe not even Da Costa. I don't even think Da Costa's on it. I meant Cassidy. So the 2 Jags and Verline, I think they're the main 3. But the others, you never know what happens in Formula E.
Yeah, I just think with the recent form that Da Costa's been on, he could, although he's an outsider, I think if he keeps up the form in London, he's got a massive shot.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think Da Costa needs to happen? What do you think needs to happen for Da Costa?
Oh, I think he just needs to carry on the way he is, and his rivals need to just either something drastic happens, something crazy, like literally last night, something like last night happens again, which it's Formula E, it could always happen.
Yep.
Or just literally he's on top and nobody can touch him. Because if you get, say, people like Dennis, who's quite up there, but not enough to really properly be in the championship anymore.
Yeah.
If he gets up into the podium, which he's done before, he's done it at London before,
Yep.
then it could hamper people like Cassidy and Evans and Verline.
Yep. Yeah, it could do
Thumbs up.
anything. Thumbs up. Look at that. What brilliant stuff.
It's a phone holder.
Oh,
How cool's that? So you put
That's
it in there.
awesome.
Sorry, yeah. But I agree. Yeah. Come on, London.
it's going to be an
I
amazing
can't wait.
weekend. I can't
I
wait.
think, I think Ali, you're completely right, though. I think Antonio's just got to keep doing what he's doing. He doesn't need, he works best under pressure. We've seen
Yeah.
this, and all he's got to do is keep doing what he's doing. Let the others be fighting it out and making mistakes. As long as he's at the front, minding his own business, there's not much more he can do. He knows he needs as much points as possible and to finish as close to the front as he can. As long as he does that, I can't wait for London. Yeah, also to point out, so it's looking at the championship. So it's obviously Cassidy at the top, and then you've got 12 points behind is Verline and Evans, but Evans gets second for some reason at the moment. Roland is in fourth, and then DaCosta's in fourth. Roland's fifth, so he can still do it. Being sick can still do it. Vern and Dennis are both still mathematically in the fight, despite the fact I don't know how if something crazy happens. We could have Jake Dennis a 2-time Formula World champion.
Yeah.
It's possible. Or a Vern 3-time. Oh, come on, London.
I think definitely some of that's far-fetched. Go on, Ali.
As you said, it's far-fetched, but also it's Formula E.
Yeah.
I genuinely think if it's mathematically possible, it could genuinely happen, and I would never write it off.
It's Formula E.
It's
Anything can
Formula E.
happen.
Anything can
We have
happen.
7 teams in the fight. I just...
Yeah, so I remember last year, because I was at London last year, I did both days as well, and I was literally sat at the corner that Cassidy lost the championship. It literally happened in front of my eyes, and it was crazy.
Wasn't it that? Oh, it was. It was turned 3-4, wasn't it? Then it
Yes,
kind of fell off.
because he hit Wemmy.
It was 3-4. Are you the same place or different place?
Same grandstand. We're a little bit closer to the start finish straight this time.
Nice.
Yes.
I do love London. Right, Ali, thank you so much for the call.
Yes.
Do you have a 6 story for us?
Honestly,
the funnier the better.
Funnier the better. So it's either a
really
time where you phoned in sick, right? Where you phoned in sick, where you weren't sick to get out of something because you had to go somewhere. We'll rate that story, or just a time where you were just hilariously sick but quite funny in a way, like you did something silly and you were sick. I got someone at work has done someone really bad. Go on.
I've got a motorsports one as well. There's a time that I was supposed to be working a big Sunday shift at work that was it was like a 10-hour shift, and it was the Daytona 24-hour.
Yep.
And I decided I would rather watch the 24-hour race, and I called in sick. And then I stayed up watching.
What was your excuse?
My excuse was that I had a migraine. All I said was, I've got a migraine, I can't come, because I used to work on a bar. So I've got a migraine, I can't come in, I can't do the bar because the lights, the music, it all hurt. And they're like, okay, yeah. And then one of my line managers was also watching the race, and he texted me about it, and I replied, and he said, "Are you supposed to be at work?" I was like, "Oh,
I've been sick in bed watching it." Nearly got out by the boss.
He didn't mind because he was the one that texted me about it. But yeah, it was fine.
I suppose you can still be sick and watch a race.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't matter because I've left that job now. So
yeah, happy days. What are we gonna rate that one? I like it. Motorsport related. I think it's a 3.5.
Okay, we'll go 3.5 because it was motorsport related. It's like
motorsport related. Right. We got a bit of motorsport in there, so...
and it was funny because I love the fact that why is it, and this goes completely off topic. Why is it when everyone calls in sick, it's always the same excuse? It's always a migraine.
Oh yeah, always.
Every time. Why is for people that suffer migraines? I think it's not fair on you guys because you can't even use that excuse. Like you have to think of something completely different.
Think of something else. Well, to be fair, if you've always got a migraine, then you can just always say, got migraine's back up again. Okay, cool. All right, perfect. Right, Ali, thank you so much for calling. First time caller, do call again. We definitely want to hear from you, especially after London. Hopefully, we'll see you in London too.
Yes, hopefully.
But after London, maybe we get another show in before London. We do have a couple of weeks, so we'll try our hardest to see if we can squeeze a show in before then. But thank you so much for calling, and we will see you soon.
Yes, thank you.
Bye, Ali.
Bye.
Right then, so what we're going to do
what
is...
a first-time call.
What a first-time caller there from Ali. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a 1, 2, 3 minute break, right? We'll be back, but what we want you to do, right? And so there's lots of people, and a couple of new people as well in the chat, in the waiting room. So just hold on a moment. We will get to you. We'll try and get to everybody. So just if you don't mind hanging around, that would be great. The waiting room's filling up, which is amazing. We're going to take a couple of minute break, but what we want you to do is, it's Nick at 9, but it's Nick at 9 at maybe 10 past 9. But I know it's flown.
Wow.
Ken, any questions you want to ask Nick about anything? Transfer gossip, news, what he thought of the England game, what he thought of the Netherlands game, why he's wearing a crappy Netherlands top. Any question that you've got.
Good story, actually.
Any question that you've got for Nick, we'll answer it. We've got 10 minutes, and then we'll be joined by Jack Smith of Motorsport News. We'll see you in about 2 minutes. And we are back, and Saz has come in with some absolute amazing questions, some clutch questions on there. But there was one that piqued your eye at the beginning. What piqued your eye?
It was. You said it. I can't remember what it is now. You scrolled back and found it.
Oh, me. What was it? Oh, I scrolled back. Right, we'll go back. So Rennie asked a question much earlier in the show. He said, "Do you think Envision will do well in London now that they have the Jaguar powertrain?" They kind of got it right. With both drivers, with Franz obviously getting a double podium. Do you think they'll be back up there? You know, it was a track that worked well from last season.
Buemi, no. Franz, yes. I think that's the best. You know, Robin looked really good in Diriyah early in the season, and then across the weekend, Portland is the strongest he's looked. So last year we saw obviously that we know the Dragon powertrain works in London. I don't think Buemi's had a good enough season. I don't expect him to be at the sharp end. Would like to be wrong, but yeah, I think I see no reason why Franz can't fight for victory. And I think that'd be quite nice actually to see him win a race at the end of the year and as returning year to Envision, because it's been a roller coaster is an understatement. It has been up and down and loop and round and round. Actually, that rhymed quite well.
Nice.
Yeah, I think Envision would do really, really well.
And then Rene asked again, because obviously that was a bit earlier in the show, and then Rene's just asked about Sasha Fenestraz. Oh no. What was the question, Nick? Through my tears, because obviously Sasha's doing the. Is it going? What is going on with Sasha Fenestraz, and will he make it to next year? Because the way he is at the moment, like you wouldn't think he would, but he might.
So, from what I'm aware of, and from conversations with Sasha himself, and I can't go into too much detail, I'm 99% confident he's around next season. From what I've been told, he is loved by Nissan. He has spent many years with Nissan. He's had a lot of support from them. It's one of the main reasons why he came to Formula E rather than trying to progress, going back into Europe, because he came from Super Formula. But this season, we say in Formula E that it's the sophomore season that decides whether you've really got it in the championship. Jake Hughes has proven that he has. Sasha has just... He hasn't shown the pace that he had in his debut season. He came in last year and was
He blew us away.
His pace was insane. But this year, he struggled with the setup a little bit. From conversation with him, that's been one of the main things. And he's kind of started the weekends badly. What's also not helped, he says this actually helps him, but it's a tough one, that Oliver Rowland's come in and has instantly performed well.
Yep.
Which is amazing considering that Ollie drove a completely different powertrain last season. In the Mahindra, only for half a year. He had half a year out. So I think that's played a part, because we've seen through Ollie what is capable from the powertrain. But the thing as well is that Nissan knows Sasha's potential. We saw last season glimpses of how good he is. It's just about unlocking that consistently. And, having Kyle Collette alongside him in Portland was probably quite tough for him, because that put quite a bit of pressure on his shoulders.
Yeah.
And obviously the crash in FP2
Yep.
did not help at all. So yeah, it's been a tough year. London hopefully can end the season well, maybe get into the semi-finals or something. But yeah, from what Sasha has told me himself, he's confident he's around next season. He's not said whether he has a deal. I wonder if he does. I wonder if he potentially signed a multi-year deal. And again, please nobody quote me on this, because that's not 100% correct, confirmed. It's purely from conversations with him. I don't really see why they would drop him either, to be honest. They know him. Nissan knows Sasha well. Sasha knows Nissan well. They know what he's capable of. And the thing is, he's such a talent where if they were to let him go, he would probably quite quickly get poached somewhere else, either in Formula E or in another championship somewhere in Europe, or maybe back in Japan or even America.
Yeah, the pace that he had at the beginning last season was amazing, and we thought he'd push on, but it's been the opposite. I remember
Cape Town. Yeah. His pole position in Cape Town last year was just one of the greatest pole position laps I've seen in Formula E. It was just, we know he's got it. It's just he perhaps just hasn't made. He's just not made the progress we expected. Maybe it's a case of pushing too hard. It's just. I'm not.
On his shoulders.
I think there's going to be less driver movement than there's potentially being let on. There's only a few teams which are looking like there's potentially a bit of change, and that a lot of that will come over the coming weeks. I'm not worried about Sasha. Could be wrong. Who knows?
Who knows? So we had some other questions. We had one about what was it? There was a Peloton style question I saw. There's a great question there about Eindhoven. And if you like Eindhoven and
Eindhoven,
PSV Eindhoven, yeah. Did you like it?
I was there for 2 weeks, so I actually got back there today, and that's obviously where I got this. I said apart from it rained almost every single day. No, it's a really good city, and obviously that's where my Racing News 365 are based. And yeah, I was in the office with the team for 2 weeks, making lots of fun content.
Yeah, and that question also said, do you think Degrassi from Nicky there? Do you think Degrassi will lose his seat this season? Is this the last season we see of Degrassi?
I'm not sure, because he's done some work with Lola, and if Lola weren't planning on having him, if Apton and Lola weren't planning on having him around next season, then I don't understand why Lucas would be doing stuff for Lola. So I would expect to see him next season. I think if he wasn't going to be, we probably would have heard by now, given his record and his status and prestige in Formula E. I would have thought he'd probably want a decent send off. But yeah, again, it's not one I completely know about, but I'd be surprised to be completely honest if they were to let him go, because his experience as well could be really, really important in helping Lola get up to speed as well next season, because it's going to be a tough one next year. It's Lola's return to motorsport, first time in Formula E, so I think it actually makes sense to have someone of his experience around, to be honest.
Yeah, and then Lou asked, any news on any Chinese auto manufacturers joining ERT? Because that is an interesting one with what ERT is going to do. Because obviously Mahindra, which had Frederick Bertrand on, still not confirmed whether they're Gen 4 and nor ERT they've not confirmed either yet. So any news on that?
So at the moment, there's nothing at the moment on Mahindra having a customer team next season. That's a question I asked a few days ago. In terms of ERT, again, nothing's been confirmed for Gen 4 yet. The thing that obviously has happened is there was several Chinese manufacturers were obviously at the Chinese Eprix. Had a really good meeting, obviously, with the Formula E hierarchy, and it wouldn't surprise me if we potentially see one for later down the line. But I've not heard a lot of news coming out of ERT. I'll be honest, it's not a team I particularly spend a lot of time focusing on. ERT is a weird one, to be honest with you, because they're in a sticky situation where they're one team who have gone backwards, sadly, compared to last year. Really, they've, at the foot of the standings, probably going to finish there. It's a tough one because it's not the same budget as the other manufacturers. So, yeah, if they don't make progress in 3.5, I'll be starting to get a bit worried, because whilst in Formula E it's amazing, obviously, for manufacturers to be showcasing their technology, I personally don't see the benefit of it if it's at the back of the grid and not making progress. Whereas, obviously, Mahindra are going in the right direction.
I'm going to pick two more because they've flooded in, but just for timing. I like this one here. Likelihood of Norman staying at Andretti, from Ali Harris.
Yeah, Norman's a weird one because Michael Andretti said over the weekend that he wants stability in the team and that there's been too many changes going on.
Norman hasn't done that bad.
I personally want to see it. Yeah. The thing is, though, it's been a tough season for Andretti. Yeah, I would like to see Zane Maloney personally. And obviously, he's someone that Andretti do have an option for, because the thing with Zane is, obviously, if he wins F2 this season, which is every chance, there's also a chance Paul Aaron could win the championship. And obviously, he performed brilliantly in Berlin, might I add. And again, he's a driver who is more than happy for a career in FE, but he wants F1. Whether he'd get F1, I don't see that happening personally, mainly because obviously he's no longer part of the Mercedes family, because obviously their future is Andrea Kimi Antonelli. So, Andretti, I'll find out more over the next couple of weeks before London. There's going to be obviously quite a lot of stories about the driver market coming up, given that it's always this time of year, because whilst we've got a decent break between London and pre-season testing, there's going to be a lot of teams that it's normally the week after London we see everything getting announced, to be completely honest with you. So I think, given that there's some pretty big seats available, looking at DS, looking at Envision, McLaren as well isn't completely confirmed, obviously, because Jake needs a new deal. So yeah, Andretti's a weird one. I would like to see them get a young talent in personally, because I think. Yeah,
I like Norman.
I could keep going. But yeah.
I want Norman to get a second season at a team. He's been in Formula E for 4 seasons. He's had a different team every single season. Some of it through no fault of his own. Don't think he deserved to be kicked out of Nissan. You could argue that he didn't deserve to get kicked out of Venturi as well. Won the last race in Berlin, and he's not had an easy ride, and he's had to keep adapting. So a bit of stability for Norman, I'd like that, but I get your point. The last question that I want to squeeze in, really quick answer. Are drivers are serious about leaving the series because of the peloton style of racing?
I mean, obviously it was. I'm going to my head's going massive here. It was me. It was me who Jeff said that to after Berlin. It was I asked him, our drivers. He alluded to it, so I then said to him, so what are drivers? So a driver's really going to be leaving, and even he said himself, and this is the two-time Formula E champion, now the guy with the most pole positions, one of the most successful drivers in the history of our sport. And the fact that even he said that, yeah, if the Peloton still ran in Gen 4, I'm not staying. If he's saying that, then odds on you'd imagine quite a few of the experienced drivers probably are. So yeah, yes, cut a long story short.
Right, we are now joined by our good friend Jack Smith from Motorsport News. Jack, you are with us. I know you're currently muted right now because you were waiting patiently. If you can unmute yourself, that would be amazing. If he's still there, there you are, Jack. Welcome to the FE Bar. How's things going for you? How was Portland for you?
Hi, Jack.
Evening, boys. You all right?
Evening, mate.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, Portland was mental, as we all kind of expected it was going to be, I suppose. The only thing I was surprised about was race 2 was slightly more crazy than race 1. Didn't really envisage that happening, but
Why do you think that happened?
but yeah,
Why do you think...
I don't know. It was they just seemed to be going for it way more than I expected it to be. I mean, with one lap less, we've seen that in these high energy races that one lap less makes all the difference, and it seems to be a little bit more of a chilled affair, and it's almost like a classic Formula E race. I mean, Shanghai was like that, but that wasn't. It was crazy, but as usual, Da Costa just kind of keeps his head amongst all the chaos.
Yeah, do you think he's the what was it, Saunders calling him the king of the peloton? I can't remember if he actually called that to Da Costa in Berlin, but he kind of proved that a little bit in Portland. I think he called it to Cassidy actually, but
yeah, he did. Yeah, it was Cassidy said it to, and then yeah, he was looking great on Saturday.
We haven't even talked about that yet, so we'll get on to that.
Oh.
We'll talk about that now, I think. Cassidy, right? Double fumble, someone put in Discord, which I loved, right? Because what an own goal. Like, it felt like, because obviously Evans had the 5-second penalty, and Nick, you can jump in on this too, right?
Yeah.
It was a 1-2 situation, and they're telling Cassidy, Jack, on the radio, you're fighting Evans. I'm like, oh, you're not fighting Evans. He's got a 5-second penalty. Just control the race like he did in London. And I just think that got to Cassidy, thinking that Evans is still fighting him, right? And then all of a sudden, a mistake. That's so uncharacteristic.
Yeah, I mean, given how well Jaguar have played a team game in a lot of the races this year, I mean, look at Monaco. That was an absolute masterclass they put on, albeit in Mitch's favour on that occasion. But yeah, it seems so strange that they sort of seem to give Nick that impression that he was fighting Mitch for the win. But it just sort of shows how great Formula E is, that he's a lap and a bit away from being 50 points ahead, and now he's ahead by, what is it, 15?
Yeah,
It's just
12.
12. Sorry, it's just crazy. Like, how things can pan out like that. And it's probably really the first big instance we've seen of Cassidy getting it wrong in a race like that. So I was quite shocked.
Yeah. What was your thoughts, Nick, on that one? Because that was crazy.
Yes,
like,
it was.
Didn't expect it.
I think it was driver error, to be completely honest, because the thing is, well, we've got to remember is whilst Mitch had the 5-second time penalty, it was at the point of the race towards the end where the pace is effectively flat out. And I suppose perhaps Jaguar were thinking, if we can get our two drivers to extend their advantage to really push the pace, then it could limit the damage of Evans's 5-second penalty and could mean that maybe he scores a couple more points. It's also worth remembering that obviously Jaguar were instantly, didn't understand why the penalty was given, and obviously were going to, and obviously now have unsuccessfully, obviously done their right of review. Because obviously, which is, I don't understand, Alan McNish pointed this out, you can't actually, certain penalties, you can't actually appeal. And one of them being, obviously, typically another one was actually in Formula 1, the Oscar Piastri exceeding track limits. That's actually one decision from the stewards. You're not actually allowed to appeal. There's certain ones you can't. And in Formula 8, this was, the Evans penalty was one of them. So I think it's one of those where they were simply, it was an error by Nick. He knew that win would have pretty much secured in the championship. Yeah. Obviously not mathematically, but the margin would have been massive. Probably about 40 points, 45 points or so, which is, he could have DNF'd on Sunday and it wouldn't have mattered. I think it was more a case of they wanted to push the gap to try and, break away from the field as much as they could to ensure that instead of falling outside the points, Mitch at least got a couple for the team's championship, because even that now has taken a massive hit. They now only lead by, I think it's 33 points. You know, they were leading by 74.
Yeah.
So that's a 41 point swing in the space of 2 races. If that happens again in London, Porsche are world champions.
But then, Jack, in terms of like, is it mismanagement then? Because I get Nick's point, but then at the same time, you've got to look at the bigger picture. There's 3 laps to go. Yes, you are flat out, but these drivers know how to race at flat out. And maybe were you surprised slightly how many drivers did make a mistake down that turn? We didn't see that last season, but this season we saw so many mistakes down there. But do you think it was like a slightly of mismanagement in terms of, you know, they could have controlled the race, but they was, you know, Nick on the radio was so confused. Like, am I racing Mitch? Am I really racing Mitch? Like, even he sounded confused, and I don't know if that added to the pressure, which then led to that unforced error.
Well, it wouldn't have helped Nick, I'm sure. And that's, you know, I think Jaguar have to take some share of blame for that. That it seemed to be they were completely clouding the issue as far as Nick was concerned. And yeah, I get that you know they wanted the team championship sewn up, but they would have had such a buffer anyway if Cassidy had just won that race, Mitch's penalty regardless. So to me, it just seems like they did drop the ball, and I agree with Nick that it was his error that you know cost him the win, and you know has thrown the championship battle wide open again. And yeah, you're right. It's so strange that particular section of the track has, of course, so many you know, we saw so many drivers going off there this year. It was a strange one, but yeah, I suppose for our perspective, it just makes everything more exciting, doesn't it? Now when London comes around,
it does indeed. We'll talk about that in 2 seconds. The only thing I want to ask you about is your opinion on Pascal Wehrlein in race 2. Front wing, didn't pit. I said earlier in the show, you know, I don't blame Porsche. You know, the FIA didn't ask them to pit. Therefore, why would you pit if you think you can get away with it? Obviously, they sort of didn't get away with it with Sam Bird. But do you think that needs to be addressed, or do you agree that, you know, Porsche didn't need to pit?
Well, I guess it's kind of potentially going to set a precedent, because you're right. In a way, you can't really blame Porsche for the fact that they weren't told to come in and change the car, because this is, of course, where we have a big disconnect between Formula E and other series, where you've got in other series where cars are more aerodynamically sound. Therefore, any piece of the car coming off is going to compromise a race. It didn't compromise Pascal's as much as it would have done in something else. Hence why he still came fourth. So they didn't feel the need to pit him. And the fact is, Formula E to some extent is more of a contact sport than other forms of motorsport is. So, but I do get that Sam was quite obviously, you know, pretty irked by the fact that his race was then compromised by Pascal's front wing flying off in front of him. I guess because this incident is a little bit more unique, I guess it's now going to open the debate up, and maybe that's something that's going to have to change in the regulations season 11 onwards.
Potentially too. I think very quickly, the Evans incident, penalty, no penalty?
I would say no penalty. It's just one of those things. It's you know, I'm not directing blame at either of them, to be honest. As I just said, Formula E is one of very few motorsports where a little bit of contact probably does happen. And I can see why Mitch was quite rightly aggrieved by the decision, to be honest. And the fact is that he's now back in the championship race, and if he hadn't got that penalty, he would be in it even more.
Yeah, indeed, he would be leading the championship if it wasn't for that situation,
which is mad.
Which is crazy. Right then,
yeah.
Jack, so London, who's going to win it for you? Like, championship wise, 2 races to go, 12 points. You've got Wehrlein, Cassidy behind, Wehrlein and Evans behind on 12 points. Cassidy ahead by 12. Who do you think is going to do it?
Well, I sort of feel like for a lot of chunks of this championship, and I say chunks because it's been sort of truncated by other drivers doing well in certain parts of the season, but a lot of momentum's always been with Cassidy. But If you want me to sort of make a prediction, I will stick my neck out and say that something big's going to happen in London, and Mitch is going to end up walking away with it.
I think people just want Mitch to win it because and I know you interviewed him, and we interviewed him as well earlier. He was what month of the magazine was that? Maybe April for us, where he addressed that bridesmaid comment, and everyone, Jack Nicholls always used to call him that, and I feel like it'd be really nice to see Evans finally do it. But in truth, really, it has been Cassidy's year. But as I said, the fumble that Cassidy had in Portland, we wouldn't, if it wasn't for that spin, we wouldn't even be talking about Evans winning the championship. We'd just be waiting for when is Cassidy going to do it.
You're right, and of course that's the beauty of Formula E, is that you just literally don't know what's going to happen from one lap to the next. We could be talking about a championship virtually being sewn up, as Nick just said, or now the situation where we've got a whole gaggle of drivers who could end up walking away with it. Some more likely than others, of course, but a very big number of drivers nonetheless. It's sometimes it will just come down to ifs and buts, and that's probably felt just as much by DaCosta more than anyone else, because if that appeal had been successful, look where he'd be.
Indeed, right.
Yeah.
Just to finish up then, we've been taking 6 stories, right?
Right,
Mr. Smith,
out.
right? So we want a funnier bit better than
funny sick story.
A funny sick story if you can. So either a story where you phoned in sick from a job for a specific reason to get out of it, and it was quite funny, or what was your excuse, and we'll rate your excuse, or because we're doing this in spite of Oliver Rowland obviously missing 2 races, and still technically being in the championship fight, which no one fought, but it's a bit surreal. Or a time where you did something which got you really ill.
Something that got me really ill. Expand on that one.
So okay, so I got a friend at work who's off at the moment, right? Who ate a piece of sushi, right, that had been left out on the table in the warm for God knows how long. I have no idea. She ate it, and she's now been sick for about 3 or 4 days from work. So something stupid like that.
I remember on one occasion in one of my old student jobs, we had a chef who didn't know how to cook chicken. So most of the time you'd go on your break and you knew that that's what you were getting. There was a very high chance it was going to be medium rare. And I was lucky enough to be on some occasions to just notice it just as I was about to eat it. But there was a couple of occasions where I did. So I sort of ended up downing at least sort of 3 or 4 shots of Jack Daniels just to sort of burn anything off, and then leave in haste because I was completely scared I was probably going to be in hospital the next day. But calling in sick, I don't know. I don't think I've ever called in sick in any way in order to go and do something else.
Jack is a good boy.
He's a good boy. I've never phoned in sick either. I phoned in sick once, right, when I was working at Waitrose, and I still went in, right? So I literally felt like absolute crap. It was the only time I've been a teacher as well, and I've 6 years, and I've never phoned in sick once. But because I'd rather be sent home, then that's just my ethos. But I know not everyone's like that. But
I've only called in sick once.
I phoned in sick once for Waitrose. I was going to say this a bit later, but I might as well say it now. And I had to go to work because there was no one to take in the delivery. And the guy that was on night shift was like, well, I leave at 6, right? And I can't, and I'm waiting for this to happen, and I can't do the delivery for X reason. So I barely had to drive all this way to get to the shop. Took the delivery in, coughing my guts out, right? I was like, mate, I can't be around food today. Like, I can't do it, right? And luckily I was sent home 2 hours later, but I actually had to come in. And I was like, well, if I spread germs all over your food, I spread over your new stock, then it is what it is. But there was like no managers in. I started at 7 o'clock in the morning. The managers didn't turn up till 8. It was part of the problem working in retail was when you work before the managers get in, and they're like, well, what do you want us to do? There's no managers in to accept your sick note. But I don't know what that rating out of 10 is. Probably a 1.
Speaking of which, if Oliver Rowland hadn't called in sick, where would he be now?
Who knows? He could be leading the gym.
Oh, it's impossible to say. It's just. But then again, look at Sasha, and maybe yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? But Mr. Smith,
Who
we'll have,
knows?
we have to let you go because. But thank you so much for popping on, and we'll see you in
You're
London.
welcome.
Right?
Yes, I will see you both in London.
See you in London. So definitely take part. We'll probably do a massive Discord get together at some point. So in London, so you're more than welcome to come and join us on that little party, whatever day it is. We have no idea, but we'll see you in London. All right. Thank you so much for coming on.
No worries. Take care, mate.
Right.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, boys.
Jack.
Hello.
Last question.
Yeah, go for it.
It's made me think. Who do you think wins the championship?
Who I think wins Nick Cassidy.
Yeah.
I think
why?
that's the easiest answer to go for. I just think he's quick. He's quick everywhere. It doesn't matter. It's a bit like Antonio Felix da Costa, right? He's been brilliant at these peloton style races, but it's not a peloton style race come London. So
definitely not. Qualifying's so important. We know this.
So if you don't, and he's decent at qualifying, and he's proven that over the last couple of races. But will he be decent in qualifying in London? I'm not 100% sure he will be. Right? So if he's not 100% perfect, I don't think he's anywhere near it. Pascal Wehrlein, I think, will be... I think London suits Pascal more than it does to Costa. And I think...
last year.
True. But I think it's between Evans and Cassidy. And I think Cassidy... But they'll be tight together. They're going to be 1, 2, 3. They're going to be... And I think that's just enough for Cassidy to jump ahead and win a championship. But maybe we'll ask some of the people, because we've got quite a few people to jump in. So we're going to just hit straight to it. I'm going to start with Caden, because Caden is also a first-time caller. So Caden...
Oh, yes, first-time caller.
First-time caller, Caden. I know who we want to talk about because of your picture. Caden, can you hear us, hopefully? Because I can't hear you at this precise moment. Say hello.
Hi.
Hello, Caden.
Hi, Caden.
Welcome to the FE bar. What would you like to talk about? And is it Mr. Nico Muller? Because he had a bit of a good race for Apt.
Yes.
Well, it's about time. But he's brilliant, right? Because obviously we've talked about it for a while. And obviously there was that links with the Porsche. How did you feel, right? Obviously, Da Costa's done such a great job now, but, how did you feel when you heard that Nico Muller could be heading his way to Porsche?
I felt great because Porsche is one of my favourite teams. And obviously Nico's one of my favourite drivers. And I knew that Da Costa wanted to do WEC and that Porsche can't do that. So then, yeah.
It felt like it was a bit of a match made it happen. So Nico Muller's season, do you think he deserves... I think he's been solid, and he's always been there or thereabouts. Again, he had some really good qualifying pace this weekend. Do you think he deserves... Because we don't know what Lola are going to do next season, and I suppose that's the big unknown, and he could stay at Lola because it's that big unknown. You never know, they could do a Brawn GP and be brilliant, but we don't know. Do you think he deserves a more of a higher stake seat in Formula E?
Yes.
Expand upon that for me. Like, why? Why do you think he deserves it?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Because obviously he's been going strong.
Yeah. He definitely deserves a higher drafts, and he can properly show how capable he is of higher results, because he's performing really well in a car that isn't really suited for being in the top 5 or
yeah, 100%.
top
And
areas.
And obviously he's done really well against Lucas Di Grassi as well.
I have 2 questions.
Go on.
Coming in. Aiden, if you had to choose one... So first question, if you had to choose one team for Nico to join, who would it be?
Oh, I've been split between 2. I've been split between Porsche, of course,
Okay.
because of Da Costa, and also I've been split between Penske as well.
Nice.
Penske's
Quite
a
cool.
good shout. I like that one. I think that makes
Okay,
sense.
next question. Caden, imagine you are a Formula E team owner, okay, and Nico is one of your drivers. You have unlimited money. Who do you sign as his teammate?
Oh.
Who is your dream Formula E pairing? Nico Muller, and who? And why?
go with Friends because them
That's a
two.
cool pairing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go for it. Go
Because
for
them
it.
two have been working together for a long time. See, like DTM, and see last year as well.
Yeah, like it. I like that.
I like that
Let's
too.
make it happen.
Let's make it happen. Caden, any sick stories for us? Any cool sick stories?
Let's go back to Eprix for last year.
So in my high school,
Yep.
we had a drama performance that
Yep.
we all had to do, and as I get commonly known for having migraines a lot,
Okay.
I
Yep.
then
This came up earlier.
been saying that
Migraines again.
I had a migraine and got away with it.
So you got out of
not
your
do good.
so you got out of your drama performance, but you didn't
Yeah.
have a migraine. Is that true? You didn't have one, so you faked a migraine.
Yes.
I like that. He's faked it. We've got our first. I
you
faked a
know-
migraine, and I got out of my. What sort of drama performance was it? Was it like GCSE? What are we talking here? We're not talking like a year 7 like play. Are we talking like GCSE A level? What are we talking about?
No, it was like year 8, year 9.
Oh, year 8, year 9.
All right, hold on. This is this will decide the score because you said there it was for drama. Did you really sell performance saying you were sick? Did you
Yeah.
put on a show? Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the show? You got to tell us though.
Okay. Yeah. What did you skip?
did you do?
Yeah. What was happening? What was happening in drama?
It was a lead role, which I didn't particularly want to do.
What was the play? What was the play? Would we know it?
Oh, I can't remember
Romeo
what it
and
was.
Juliet. I'm going to imagine it's Romeo and Juliet. And you were the lead, you were Romeo, and you didn't want to kiss Juliet.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. We'll go on that. What are we going to say? I think it's a. I don't know. Well, you give the result. I've been given a lot of scores lately.
3.5.
3.5. Everyone's on a 3.5, but we're going to have to do like 0.412s at this point. Caden, thank you so much for being a first-time caller. Do call back.
Good job, Caden. Well
done. See you soon. Right, we've got tons to try and get through. I'm going to get Natalie.
Love first-time callers.
Love first-time callers. Right, we want, as I said, if you're on the show, exclamation mark Discord, you can come on and have a chat. Natalie, you're on the FE bar. I hope you're well. What would you like to talk about?
Hi.
Natalie, is she AFK?
Oh,
Oh no, there we go.
Yeah,
Hello, Natalie. How are we?
you dated to connect. I'm good, lads. How are we?
Not too bad. We're all well. What would you like to chat about?
We are well.
Before we get into anything
What's up?
FE related, I just want to say I did a 10k charity walk yesterday.
You did. How did it go? Excellent stuff.
I
Excellent
need a
stuff.
confetti.
The
I need a
confetti.
confetti cannon.
Woo!
Let's just... Here we go.
Yes.
And I had a
Well
blood,
done.
I had a blood blister pop in my shoe, which wasn't
Oh.
great.
That's not good.
Oh.
Canda's a sick story.
But yeah,
horrible.
it went alright. I was aiming for 2.5 hours. I did it in 2 hours and 13 minutes.
That's not too bad. Well done. Well done.
Lots of clapping this evening. That's
Yes.
amazing.
That's amazing.
I
Well
can
done.
I can do it.
Do you know how much you
And
raised?
then-
Do you know how much you raised? I know it's not
Between
massively
Mum
important.
and myself, including gift aid, we both raised £515
That's
for
amazing.
cancer
Right.
research.
That's final round of applause.
Hold on, this bit I need to, like.
I need like a sound effect button. But I don't really have any
Yeah, I
sound.
need to
I
accelerate-
got my
accelerate.
Steam Deck with like celebrate good times or something. We're gonna celebrate the party with you. Come on now. What's that? Yes, is that George?
It's an England flag.
England flag.
It's an England flag. Yes, Natalie.
Well done. Well done.
Well done.
What did you make?
Well
of,
done.
What did you make of the Formula E?
Not included.
Oh, your line's gone a little bit there, Natalie. Your line's gone. I don't know if it's me, because Nick's gone a little bit fuzzy as well.
I'm okay. You're okay for me.
Okay, I've got audio. I suppose you're moving about, so I think your camera's lost focus. Natalie,
Sorry, I
we've
was getting the flag.
Natalie, we've lost you at the moment. So what we're going to do is we'll try and get you back on. Right, we'll definitely get you back on, but we've lost you at the moment. So that's why you've gone back. I'm going to get my friend, good old friend Joshua Birch. He's been waiting in the chat for a while. Josh, welcome to the FE bar. How are you?
Hello.
Hopefully we can hear you. Hello. Perfect.
Hello.
I was with you for the first race, and we thought at the time Evans' incident, because the camera shots that we saw looked like from the instant replays was a penalty. Was a penalty. Have you changed your mind? Because I think I'm gonna stand by. I can see why the stewards gave it, but I do now understand Evans a bit more than I did Saturday night.
I agree with what we said in commentary that it was a penalty. It was clear cut, causing a collision as well. It was clear cut. But I do now, as you say, we've heard the interviews, we've read what he said in the written media. I get his point of view saying, like, it's always going to happen in these style of peloton races. But I still agree that it was a penalty, because if you don't draw the line there, then where do you draw the line in these type of races? So it was fair in my opinion. But what could have been if Evans didn't have that penalty, as you've been saying on the show, it would have been a championship lead. So it grates on me. It really does. Because all throughout the weekend, it feels like we've been sort of artificially engineering a London hype train, which is ironic, really, because it would have been just as good as anyway, because the championship was going down to London. But now it just feels like everything's sort of been put in place from qualifying onwards. It was weird. So I agree with what we said in commentary, Jack, as well about Evans' penalty. And it was so much that went on that weekend as well. You were discussing Verline's penalty as well, non-penalty. Yeah, that was in race 2. You texted me actually before the start saying that it was going to be dramatic. I don't know what's blowing my voice more, Max Verstappen and Lando Norris' accident, or the second race in Portland. For Verline, it was a tricky one because he should have been given a black and orange flag as soon as that wing came off. And it was off for a lap and a half, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was enough time that the FA should have responded and given him the flag and come into the pit lane. But as soon as it fell off, there was no need for that flag anymore. It was unlucky that it fell off and it hit Sam Bird. But in my opinion, if that had happened earlier, it was racing. So if it had fallen off and hit Bird, then it would have been racing. But because they kept Verline out for so long, because the FA didn't tell Porsche to bring him in my opinion, that needs to change in the future. Because if that wing had flown off and shattered into a million pieces, who knows what damage that could have done, where that could have ended up. If that was at a street circuit, could it have ended up in a crowd? Could it hit a marshal, whatever? Because it fell off and it whacked Bird with some speed. It was at the fastest part down towards turn 10. So I didn't like that. And what else? We were commentating at the time, weren't we, Jack, on the Cassidy spin?
Yes.
Caught us by complete surprise.
100%. We weren't expecting it. It was just a bit of a shock. Like, and obviously they're not picking up any points on Sunday with his result down to 12. His points lead down to 12 points. He's opened the door for his rivals now. So like, we're going into London. We thought we were going to go to London with him. When's he going to crown it? Probably Saturday's race. Now he could lose it.
What did I say to you? Who's the one man who is happy with the way Portland turned out? Ollie Rowland. Not there. And Cassidy gets no points in both races. He's the happiest man on the planet.
It does keep him.
Ollie needs a miracle though. He's fifth. He needs basically a Nick retirement. Pretty much. I think it's still in it, but I think it's. If we're saying it's too far for Antonio, then
I think it's too far for Ollie too.
Yeah, I think it's. Had he missed only one? I think it's.
It's a shame.
Who knows? It's London. Anything can happen.
It's a shame. I'm going to throw it back to you, Nick, though, because first person to sort of keep agreeing with me with Mitch Evans. Like, what would you like to throw back?
I honestly, having raced myself as well from that experience, I don't get how it's a penalty. What is Mitch supposed to do? As I pointed out, he did not change his line. He was effectively boxed in. He had one driver on his left. He obviously had someone behind. So if he'd slowed down, he gets rammed up from behind effectively. Jake Hughes obviously had taken attack mode and then was coming back across the circuit. Couldn't see Mitch because Mitch was in his blind spot. Mitch obviously, didn't react. He was already going at 160, 170 miles an hour. I don't get that because it's the inconsistency. Because, okay, then flip it to Porsche and Pascal. Okay, yeah, the front wing fell off. Gamble, well done by Porsche. However, it was that front wing that's then caused the collision with Sam Bird. So shouldn't then Pascal still be getting a penalty for, effectively ruining Sam's race because of his broken front wing? You look at Mitch and Jake. Literally, the stewards effectively said that Mitch got a penalty because Jake got a puncher. Had Jake not got a puncher, then there'd be no penalty because both would have kept going. So then by this case, Sam's race was completely ruined by Pascal's front wing coming off and going underneath his car. So it's, again, this is the consistency argument, because what's then causing a collision, what isn't? It's too difficult to follow, basically, because it's impossible to predict what's going to be in penalty and what isn't. Because if you look at the two incidents side by side without knowing the verdict, you would imagine that the Pascal Sam one is the one you'd probably say, yeah, that's slam dunk, rather than Mitch and Jake, because it was the finest of contacts. Even Jake was surprised himself that caused the puncher because it was so small. Even the Edo Mortara puncher, that was the finest of contacts. It was. Yeah. I don't get it. I think it's a racing incident. I don't see what Mitch could have done, and had Mitch, slowed down like the steward said, then that would have caused an even bigger crash. It's the Pascal one for me that I think is the bigger problem, because that could have been a massive accident for Sam. And the thing is, we look back at Sao Paulo and Nick, when something similar, Nick's obviously front wing came off, stayed under his car, but then lodged his front wheels. That could have happened to Pascal quite easily whilst going down the back straight at 160, 170 miles an hour, where effectively he would have then gone flying through the grass and into the barrier in a similar-esque accident to Nico Muller. I'm really not. Mitch never got a penalty, in my opinion. Pascal should.
I think with the Mitch situation, it was the fact that if it happened at a different part of the track, it wouldn't have been the penalty. But because it was coming up towards a wall, it was something that the stewards were on about, the fact that there was never a gap alongside, was there? Because the track narrowed up. So the way Mitch never changed his line, as you said, but because the track was narrowing up, he should have had the driver's awareness to not go for that gap because it was going towards the wall. Because how it goes there, important, is you have a massive open field and it tightens up before the 10-11 chicane with walls either side because there's a lake. So he was on the wrong side.
The issue is, though, Mitch was already there. He was in. They say lanes because obviously with the peloton, effectively it's NASCAR. You're in. There's two lanes effectively, and the issue is that obviously where Jake had activated attack mode, he then had more power. So he obviously then had a slight speed advantage initially because of the acceleration, which effectively is what allowed Jake. Because if you look at the replay, at the start they're effectively side by side, and it's that initial acceleration from the attack mode, from the extra 50 kilowatts per hour, that gives Jake that boost. Obviously, then to filter into the lane. I really don't. I know words, to be honest. I don't get it.
I get the steward's kind of point, but I get your point too. Like, it is. I think the more I think about it, probably a racing incident is fair. But
it's the Pascal one that's the problem for me. Yeah, that's the thing, because
that's more on the FIA than I would say Porsche. But that's just the FIA being silly. But it's just, I get it. It's just, I see what they mean by lift off, because, he's the car behind. You should see that he's coming across lift off so you don't crash into the back of him. But
the issue is, though, how can you lift off in the peloton? Because if you lift off in the peloton and the driver behind doesn't react quickly enough, then you get a car going,
how slow is it?
But then this is
then the problem.
Is it more of like a modulation? Like it's just a little tap off the. It's not like a lift. It's like a off and on.
But the issue is, though, even the smallest of lifts, is then going to suddenly bunch the field. When you look, and in the peloton, there is no space between the cars. They are quite literally bumper to bumper, and this is the frustrating thing, is that you look again at the stewards, and it wasn't an ex-Formula E driver, so they have no experience of racing this machinery. So who are they to say, Mitch could just lift it off? Have you been in that position yourself before? Is that the correct thing? This is why they need to get someone like Alex Sims would be brilliant. He did one recently, obviously, but it's just the consistency, and the problem is now, as we've already mentioned, there is a realistic chance that the championship could come down to this. It's one of those things where last year the championship was effectively decided in Rome, and obviously for a driver error by Mitch. This time it could very well be decided by a steward's decision, And we've still got 2 races in London where, as we saw last year, odds on we're probably going to get another one.
VAR in it. It's VAR. What can you say? It's VAR's fault. It's all VAR's fault. They had the video, they had the assistants, and they still got it wrong. What can you do? Josh, thank you so much for popping on. We've got a couple more callers to squeeze in before the end of the show. But thank you so much for popping on and waiting. I know you've been in there for a little bit.
Do you want my six story? Because I've got
story.
Sorry, I forgot. I'm too busy watching the clock. I'm watching the clock.
Well, I'll be quick then. 2019 F1000 Chinese Grand Prix. Night before, on the Saturday, Friday night, I had a Chinese takeaway. So the full shebang.
What's the full shebang?
I got food poisoning.
Like, what's your order?
Order?
Yeah, what's the order?
Oh God, what was it? We had a chicken chow mein. We had some sort of seafood wrap. We had ribs. We had some type of sushi in there too as well. But just my sister came down and she ordered the entire menu, so it was like a full-on shebang.
Yep.
And I got food poisoning. So it's Saturday morning. Don't forget. So I ate at 9 o'clock on Friday, and I'm up 5 a.m. for practice 3.
Yep.
I'm in the commentary box, which is outside in the garage.
Yep.
And I'm sat down. Alexander Albon crashes, and I go, "Oh no, Alexander Albon crashes!" I'm not feeling well, and because I jump up, I've got a bad stomachache. I accidentally hurt my pants live on air, and I've had a horrible stomachache. Cue me having to rip my headset off, waddle out of the commentary box in the darkness, unlock my back door, through my kitchen, through my hall, up my stairs into the bathroom, and then have to go back on air after the fact in a completely new trousers. Yeah. You go back and look at my commentaries from that weekend, you can see I look dead behind the eyes. I got myself together for the Grand Prix on Sunday, but by the end of lap 1, I was collapsed on the floor. I commentated most of the race on the floor looking up. I was dead to the world with food poisoning. And then there's the time I had COVID and again was dead to the world. But having a pants emergency live on air with evacuating your bowels is not the best story, but that is, I think, that happened. And I always tell it in China.
We got to win it. We got a winner.
Yeah, that's a 5. That's a 5. I can't
unreal.
even. That's a 5.
That's a 5.
Those jeans were ruined as well. It was
God, man, what a
story.
Megan's just come in as well, and she's just said she remembers this because I gave her the food poisoning afterwards because I got in a flu bug.
That's terrible.
We had the same food.
That was Megan.
Hello.
Hello, Megan.
Yeah, we had the same food. So yeah. So there you go. I'll let you get on with the rest of the night.
Thank you so much, Josh.
That's a crap situation.
100%. 100%. Right, we've got a couple more. Thanks very much, Josh.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Good Josh. Oh man,
that's unreal. I can't believe it. I can't actually.
So basically, the moral of the story: don't become a commentator and put yourself in that position.
Yeah, don't become a commentator and put yourself in the position. Saz, super Saz.
Saz, come on, Saz.
How are we?
I am so much better now I've heard the Sasha Fenestraz news.
Oh, excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. Fingers crossed. Yeah, we want him to do better, right? Because he was so brilliant at the beginning in his first season, and it hasn't gone his way. You know, a bit of second season syndrome, but he might survive, and fingers crossed he can build in his third season. If he doesn't build in his third season, then I'm worried for you, Saz.
Yeah, if he doesn't build in his third season, then as much as I think he's brilliant and amazing talent, it's like, yeah, I can't really defend that if you have another season like this. But hopefully he won't.
Fingers crossed. What was the thing you wanted to talk about?
Yeah.
I wanted to talk, we haven't talked about them yet. Maserati.
Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere.
What's happened? Like, I mean, Max did an amazing comeback and got points, woohoo, on Sunday, but I mean, he shouldn't be. He was starting 21st, and in like the last few rounds, they've just been nowhere. What's happened?
I actually spoke to Max last Tuesday before he flew out to Portland. It's the peloton. Basically, the way he put it was just it's one of those. It can either go in your favour, it can go completely against you. And he said there's nothing really wrong with the car, with the setup. It's simply the peloton. It's just the unpredictable nature of it that you can get caught up in an instant and that's it. Your race is over. So I'm not particularly worried about them myself. I think it's, they have fallen off this year, but actually you can pinpoint them falling off to the succession of peloton races starting. So I think it just clearly shows that Maserati prefer the real races where I guess pace matters. But then the argument on the flip side is that they're powered by Stellantis, who obviously perform really well in where were we? Portland. So, but yeah, no. So yeah, and just I want to clarify something before I get in trouble. Sasha is not confirmed for next season. Okay, it's just stuff that I'm speaking to him and everything. It looks likely, and nothing confirmed. It could still switch around. So please, nobody be quoting me on Twitter or anything, because then I'll get in trouble.
I won't quote, but I'm just a bit more hopeful than I was.
Bit more. He's set to
Yeah,
sign,
definitely.
but I've learned that as a Brentford fan, we were set to sign Archie Gray. He's gone to top Spurs, so you never know. You never
Downgrade.
know. You never know. But yeah, it was a bit odd from Maserati, but I do think, Saz, I think London will suit them much better, and I do expect a better showing from Maserati.
Yeah, I think if they can get their qualifying, and we've seen them do it in like Tokyo on those sort of little street circuits, that I'm hoping so, and maybe even a Max podium. I'm being wishful thinking, but
it could happen.
Why not? I'm there. He should do it.
Max has had a good season. So fingers crossed for him. Saz, sixth story. Do you have one?
Yes, I do. So I was also China related, because I was in China and I got laryngitis. So I couldn't speak English or Chinese at this point. And I went to the doctor with a Chinese friend, and the doctor was like, "Oh, this is because you drink coffee. You're an American, you drink coffee." And I'm like, "I'm British and I don't drink coffee." And my friend was telling him this because I literally couldn't speak. And the doctor was just like, "This is all your fault for drinking coffee." So I got out my phone and I wrote a text message. "I don't drink coffee. I don't like coffee," in perfect Chinese. The doctor then gives me 60 pills, so 23 times a day in little plastic bags. I'm like, "Mate, I can hardly swallow water. How do I swallow these?" Had no idea what they were. And then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to give you an injection." No idea what this injection was, but I was feeling pretty terrible at this point. So I'm like,
take what you get.
I just stick it in. And when he pulled out the needle, there was a little bit of blood. And the doctor was really surprised. He was like, "Your blood is red." It's like, "Yes." He genuinely thought, like, yeah, I was like, I don't trust you anymore.
Have you
He was like,
seen one of these Chinese medicine doctors? Like these.
No, he was meant to be a proper, like, this was meant to be like Western medicine. He's like, but your arm, and like, he's like, "I thought white people had blue blood because you can see our the veins on the skin."
This is not a qualified doctor. God knows what you've been injected with. God knows what you were injected. You've not seen a doctor. This isn't even year 7 biology. This is not even this is basic.
You might want to get tested.
Yeah. This is terrible.
I'll be honest. This don't sound great.
It does not. It's like when I've got more medical knowledge than the doctor, and I'm not a qualified doctor, it was just there. Like, the only good thing was I was sort of so out of it that I didn't realize the significance of what he said until like a few days later when I was recovered. I was like, "Oh, how am I even alive?"
That's a pretty good story, to be fair.
Story. I mean, we've already got a 5, but that's a good. I'll give it a 4.5.
4.5. I would agree.
Me too. I'll take it.
Saz, absolute pleasure as always.
Lovely speaking to you guys.
Lovely speaking. Species.
Good night, Saz.
Yep. Okay, so we've got 2 more, and then maybe try and squeeze Natalie in. So we're gonna quick fire these. We've got Chester from America. Hello, Chester.
Hello.
Hello. How was the Portland Eprix for you?
It was very fun to watch. I enjoyed it very much. I feel I had a much different opinion. I thought it was a fun race. I thought it was chaotic, especially the second race.
I suppose with all the collisions and all the drama with, obviously, I remember hearing all the crunches of carbon fibre. I remember standing in Berlin and hearing all the crunches of carbon fibre out by the tractor in the second race. a question I asked earlier, and I'll ask it to you. Like I said, because of all these crashes and these penalties, and is it shown that these peloton styles of racing isn't working? But you're quite finding them interesting. You find them fun. So to you, they are working. So why are they working for you?
I think it's just that it's chaotic. It's almost when I guess when F1 goes into the wet, it's kind of just unpredictability. Anyone could win. You saw Casti last race, the first race in Portland,
Yeah.
was in the back and then came all the way back up to win. You saw people this race moving up and down all the way. Well, the Casti didn't win, but he came back up and then he died. I guess he just messed up.
Yeah, he did. He did indeed. Who do you think is going to win the championship now? Then who do you think is going to win it?
Since Dennis is out, I guess I just kind of got to go for Wehrlein.
Okay. What makes you think Verline? Because I said he wasn't like aggressive, and I think London will suit him better. But like, it all comes down to qualifying for Verline, and sometimes in qualifying he's hit and miss.
And miss. I don't know. I just think Porsche will be strong. I think they've just had a good run of races recently, especially Dak or whatever. He's just been on such strong form recently. And I think Warline's just been good overall. So I think it's not a I think it's pretty safe to say they'll be strong in London as well if they were strong here in other races.
Yep, and obviously next season we go to Homestead, Miami. Looking forward to that. Do you think that will suit Formula E from your experience?
Rovals, I just think Rovals again are just fun. I think NASCAR does Rovals and they're fun. Usually they're a bit chaotic, which will probably won't be as chaotic as Portland. They'll be kind of chaotic, I guess. So it is again kind of a tight track.
Are you disappointed to see Formula E leave Portland?
Kinda. Portland, I like Portland. It's one of my favorites on the IndyCar calendar. I think it creates good racing for IndyCar, especially. Yeah. It's kind of sad to see leave Formula E after having I think 2 years now, really good races in my opinion.
Do you think they could have kept Portland and Miami? Do you think there was scope to keep both of them on the calendar, or why do you think they didn't?
I don't know. I guess Portland maybe just didn't see a return of investment. Portland is a very big plot of land, so I don't know. I couldn't really see why. I guess just lack of interest from the organizers, or I guess they just want to move it to a bigger part of the country, which Miami is much bigger. The home it's in Miami. That's a lot more people in the area, I guess.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, because I had this conversation with Nick when the calendar announcement came out, and obviously Homestead is 45 miles away from Miami International Airport, right? So it's about an hour's drive. And obviously, we don't know, the peloton start was only one race, and we saw in Portland, right, we had a 34-minute race 1, 36-minute race with the safety car, pampering that. As a fan, you've got to travel yourself, for example, because you're New York State, right? So if you were to go, do you think it's worth going? If you really wanted to go, do you think fans would be worth going all the way down to Miami to watch a race that could only be 36 minutes long?
Is it a single round? Is it not a double header?
It's a single round, so for 1 day only.
1 day only. I think it'd really only be worth for people in the general area.
So you don't think people across America would travel to the event, for example?
I don't think people across America traveled for Portland.
Yeah, it's very true. I get that, but do you think they would? If about Portland was a double header, so you could make a weekend out of it, right? Whereas Miami, yes, you can make a weekend out going to Miami, but it's also miles away. I just wanted to get an American's kind of perspective because, on potentially traveling to that race and going as a fan. Do you think it could be worth it, or do you just think it's just for the people in Miami, which is still a big population?
I think it's for the people in Miami. I guess if someone's going on vacation in Miami and then that's happening, I guess they might go. But I think it'd be better, I guess, putting it in a bigger population setting. I guess just go back to Formula U and actually have a race in the cities. I'd love to see them race in Austin. That it'd be super hot, so it'd be fun to see how that affects the cars. You go to Las Vegas. I know that was rumored. IndyCar. There's a bunch of street circuits that are in a bunch of. They got Detroit. They used to come to Baltimore here in Maryland. They go up to, I think, Watkins Glen. They used to go up
Yep.
there, which would be a road course, but that's still relatively close to an airport and New York City as itself.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what I'm getting from this conversation though is that America needs more than one race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, I'd love to see it come to DC. That's probably never gonna happen, just as having to plan around.
I just think a street circuit in America, and obviously you've got IndyCar. You know, my favourite Chicago, right? I love Chicago. I've been there 5 times. You've got Grant Park where NASCAR goes. Perfect. Right, bang in the city centre, not far from the airport. 2 direct train that goes straight to the city centre. Grant Park would be amazing. But you know, it's whether Formula E can do that, and obviously these cities, they've put it up for NASCAR. Can they put it up for Formula E? It doesn't need to be around it. There's a lot of complications that go around it, but it's just what I find really interesting is that NASCAR and IndyCar have got so many race tracks which are in city centres, right, in big cities across America, and you're like, well, Formula E, like, go just grab one.
I think it's just hard because, again, NASCAR, IndyCar still hold that majority interest from American viewers. I don't think people are subscribing to. I don't even know what it's on in America.
And that's
Okay,
the
it's on. It's
problem.
on TNT.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on TNT. I don't think many are buying a channel subscription, let alone a streaming subscription to TNT to watch Formula E. You can get IndyCar on Peacock, and then it's moving to Fox next year, which will be on. It'll be on network and cable for every single race. NASCAR and IndyCar are going to be on the same network.
So that works out well then. It works out well for
Interesting.
fans. It works out well. Chester, I have to let you go, but this has been an absolutely amazing conversation, and I've really enjoyed just getting an American's perspective because it's really insightful. Because we're just obviously looking in from Britain, from the outside in, and you're on the inside and giving us what American fans could potentially do for that Miami and maybe Portland race. But what I've learned is that we need more races in America, and I think we're working on that.
Yeah.
But
To be fair, like, it's probably not gonna happen. I'd love to see them come to like DC, like the capital.
Yeah.
That'd be sick. Because Red Bull did a show run here, like down Pennsylvania Avenue, where the White House or the Capitol building is. And it was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be amazing, and especially even if you could get the White House in the backdrop somewhere, just in the backdrop would be amazing, like they did with
The Secret Service is not gonna let them close to the building to have that happen. But they could probably get the river that flows through the Capitol. They probably get the cherry blossoms too if they come race in April, because the cherry blossoms, come into DC every before summer, they blossom for a few weeks.
And you could do that because obviously Miami's in May or end of April, whenever it is. Then you can. It's not far to travel, so there's scope. There's plenty of scope, Chester. And I'll tell you what, it's a great chat for another day. But I've got to let you go because I've got to try and get one more person in before we go because we're deep into overtime. But I'm so happy you've come on, and it was a great chat and a great call. And we'll speak to you soon.
All right, speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
So that, Chester.
Right, so we're
What
gonna
a
get
call.
what a call. It was really interesting just to
Very insightful,
get that insight from the other side and actually think, okay, would you do it? And people it's just for the people in Miami. It's just sorry, but we're joined by Chris, Mitch Evans fan, Chris. So straight away, let's go
Chris.
to it. Penalty, no penalty.
I don't think it was a penalty. I think it was harsh.
Yeah, agree. I completely agree.
Harsh. I can't remember them actually showing it on the live time.
They didn't show it till after the race, which I thought was strange.
Yeah, so looking at it after the race, yeah, no chance that was a penalty.
What else would you like to talk about? Because I obviously threw the question to you, but what did you want to come and chat about? Unless it was that.
No, I think the Jag troubles have been discussed enough tonight, haven't they?
Yeah. Well, what do you think of Cassidy, though? And your opinion on it, though, because I want your opinion. Do you think Jaguar made a mistake? Obviously, Mitch Evans had the 5-second penalty, and then Cassidy, they were telling him that he was fighting. Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, yes and no. Obviously, they were trying to fight the penalty because I assume they watched the live stream as well. They didn't see it themselves, so I'm not sure how they could fight something they didn't see. But ignoring that, they're 2 drivers fighting for the championship, and Mitch, even with that 5-second time penalty, needed to push.
Yeah.
Whether it was better off letting Mitch go through, but then you risk Cassidy
being
dropping
overtaken,
down, being overtaken himself, or whether you it's a difficult one, but it didn't matter in the end.
No, it didn't matter in the end. It didn't indeed. Nick, any questions?
No, so I was reading the comments to some really interesting things. But for you then, Chris, looking ahead to London, who do you think comes out on top in both championships?
I think it's Jags to lose teams. I mean,
Yep.
standing first and second, I know Mitch and Pascal are on the same amount of points, but you can't back first and second. They probably the only team that had 2 fighting drivers. Maybe Dak, but he's, I think, after that, losing that race with Zano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the danger with Dak is that whilst he's adrift, he's still in contention. So, like I mentioned earlier, that's going to be interesting how Porsche, how they work around that, given that they've got 2 drivers who can still win the championship. So, I don't really see how they could ask Da Costa, for example, to support Pascal or vice versa. And the same with Jaguar. Nick and Mitch will both be allowed just to fight and go at it. So, who knows? Maybe there's a chance that it could end up costing either Porsche or Jaguar the team's championship. That's the one they make the money in ultimately. So, yeah, it'll be. Come on, London, bring it on.
I know. I'm looking forward to it as well. But it is amazing, like how lucky Nick was. The race that he span out. I know, obviously, the second race he finished 18th, but the race he span out on was a race that none of his championship rivals either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, even over the whole weekend, like, well, Costa win the first race, which means obviously he's back in contention. But that's only brought him back in contention, not really eaten Nick's lead.
Yeah, indeed.
He's,
It's going to be interesting either way. Right, I didn't do it for Chester because it was such an interesting chat, but we'll give it to you. Any 6 stories to sort of end the show?
I'll finish it. I'm going to say I won't beat that one from earlier, but yeah. So this is when I was having my wisdom teeth out.
Always a painful one.
I know. Well, I had to go to hospital, have it under general because I could.
Yep. Of course, yeah. Don't blame you.
So, hey, absolutely fine. So I thought, well, I can work from home. That's absolutely fine. But I work with contracts, and specifically, one of the first things they said when I came out was, "You're not allowed to look at anything contractual for 8 hours."
Okay.
So I literally managed to get a doctor's note that I couldn't do my job for 2 days. Absolutely brilliant.
Take that. You take that all day. Don't have to do my job.
Yeah.
3.5.
3.5. Solid 3.5. Don't have to do work. It's 3.5.
Best get out of work.
Chris, thank you so much for popping on. It means the world.
See you later, Chris.
See you later, Chris. Right, we're going to try Natalie one more time just to see what she wanted to say very quickly, and then we'll wrap up the show. Natalie, hello. Hopefully your line's a bit better this time.
Let's hope, because I'm now on my computer. How are you,
Excellent.
boy?
So that's much better. Yes, we're very good, very good. What did you want to say about the race?
It's just basically how penalties that were penalties weren't given and penalties that weren't penalties were given.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the penalty that should have been given? Is that anything
Pascal.
else? Yeah, definitely with the. I don't think Pascal's deserved the penalty. That I disagree with.
To be fair, I think the team should have at least been fined for letting Pascal drive around in an unsafe condition, because Sam could have been injured
Again.
because of the because of the speed that wing flew into the car. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, and the danger.
That's what I said earlier, right? Sorry, Nick. That's what I said earlier.
That's
it was
right.
on the FIA, right, to call them in, right? Yeah, because the only reason the Porsche aren't coming in themselves is because the car doesn't lose any performance. So they are taking a risk. Yes, they are taking a risk. They are driving in an unsafe condition. I 100% agree with that, but they are taking a risk that it will fall off. And how many times over the years of Formula E I've seen Jean-Eric Verne drive into a wall to dislodge a part to make sure that he doesn't get a black and orange flag in the Gen 2 era, right? So it's been done.
Wasn't it also Felipe Massa as well in the Gen 2 era?
So it's been done before where teams will drive in an unsafe manner and will just pray that what happened in Portland doesn't happen. And it was the first time that it's happened. And I can't see that you can blame the team or give Pascal a penalty, because the FIA, if the FIA had given him a meatball flag and he did a lap, didn't come in, and then the thing came out, then yeah, fine, penalty all day, every day, right? Because you ignored the flag, right? The flag was waved, but the FIA didn't wave the flag. So you can't give a penalty for a foul that hasn't been committed.
Yeah, I know.
So that's what, for me, I can't give a penalty.
It's like Mitch said yesterday in the press conference. It's the FIA being inconsistently consistent with their decisions.
Yeah, that I'd agree with. Because
they've given penalties that shouldn't have been penalties. They've let racing incidents be penalised, and with Mitch, I'm 50-50.
That should be penalties that they've called as racing incidents.
Exactly. With the penalty with Mitch the other day, I was 50-50 racing incident penalty, because it was very touch and go. But I think for me, because Mitch had the damage on his front wing, I think that's why the FIA penalised him. Because he had damage on his front wing that inevitably led to Jake Hughes going off the track.
I'm trying to remember if he did have damage on his front wing. I can't remember, but to be honest with you, he could have had damage on his front wing. He could have. He could have. But that's the beauty, right? And that's the thing. In any sport, it's subjective, right? People think it's a penalty, people don't think it's a penalty, and more people think it's not a penalty than it is a penalty, and that's the thing. It's up or down. For whatever reason, the stewards felt that for whatever reason it was a penalty, but it's subjective, isn't it? And maybe they were a bit rash.
I'm on the fence here. 50 racing incident, 50 penalty was deserved.
Yeah.
But I think I'm more leaning towards racing incident. Because Jake came out the attack mode. Mitch had nowhere to go, so he was just following the racing line and tagged Jake by accident.
Yeah, 100%. Natalie, we're gonna have to let you go because we've gone into extra time. I don't know if the Portugal game's gone into extra time.
It's gone to penalties.
It's gone to penalties.
Not the game. No, not the game.
This has gone to penalties. It's because
Ronaldo missed a penalty, believe it or not.
Did he?
Oh,
he's in my fantasy. He's in my fantasy team.
Is that a fantasy Euros team? Didn't know that.
I'm in a Dutch league. It's called a Scarito, but I'm in a Dutch one. So Ronaldo's in the team. But anyways, story for another day.
What was the score?
Before I leave.
Yep.
0-0, was it, Nick?
Well, if it's 0-0, it's still going on. Surely it's got to be something. Someone's got to win.
It's in extra time.
It's in extra time. 0-0.
Oh.
Last time I saw anyway.
It's in extra time. Chat, what's the score? Chat, put the score in chat before we go and watch
the penalties.
Put the score in chat, people. Put the score in chat.
Put the score in chat. That's a big one. I tell you what, if Slovenia will go through there on penalties, massive.
Portugal, my bet's to win, so that's annoying.
Not good for you. Not good for you, Natalie. It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you for coming on.
Before we go, two things. Can I do the outro for tonight's FE bar?
You can.
And can I also give you my sick note?
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
So, as you all know, because I did say earlier before my connection went funny, because I've been having problems with Discord on my phone all night.
Yep.
Mum and I, together collectively, including Gift Aid, raised £515 for cancer research yesterday.
Amazing. Brilliant stuff.
So, work called me this morning. Oh, hi, can you go in? I didn't really want to go in because of the blisters on my feet being really sore and my legs killing me.
Yep.
So I just kind of made up an excuse. I'm sorry, I can't today because my grandparents can't take me. When in reality, I was in really bad pain in the leg department and didn't really want to go.
Yep.
So yeah, that's fine. And I said, can I be booked in for tomorrow if there is work? So they said yes, and I'm working tomorrow instead. When in reality, I didn't want to go because my feet were killing me, my legs were hurting, But you know, as the saying goes, no pain, no gain, eh?
No pain, no gain. I'll tell you what, there's not a bad one. It's not about. To be fair, you deserve the day off, right? No
Yeah,
overtime.
and it's for charity, so I give it a 10.
Yeah, give it a 10.
Yeah,
Give it a
charity
10.
always gets double points for
Double
charity.
points. Double points.
I win.
Absolutely amazing. Natalie, thank you so much. And you, I suppose, you could do the outro. So before I let you do the outro, Nick, absolutely privileged. I hope you enjoyed it.
Wait, do I not get to give my sixth story?
Actually, you should give your sixth story.
Oh, long story. I'll keep it quick and hopefully it's better than my struggle story. So a few years ago, 2021, I was hospitalised with COVID. I was on a ventilator, nearly dead. Anyway, I'm all good, quite clearly. Touch wood. Yeah, it weren't good. Anyways, they eventually found a drug that started to make me better. And being me, as soon as I was like, oh yeah, I can do this, took out all the needles and all this and all that. I won't go into so much detail because I want to go for a shower because it'd been like a week without showering at this point, just in this hospital bed. And obviously in hospitals, the showers are wet rooms. I'd never used a wet room before. Went in there, was like as weak as a fiddle. I don't know if that even makes sense, but anyway, turned the shower on, shut the door, locked it. Didn't realise I'd locked it. I also didn't realise that I didn't know how to use a wet room. Next thing I know, I get about 50 nurses outside banging on the door saying, "Is someone in there? Is someone in there? Is someone in there?" I don't know if that was their voice anyway. And basically it turned out that I'd flooded the hallway.
Oh my god.
So all the water and I was because I was on a COVID ward, there was people there with all different types of illnesses as well as COVID. And literally there's just me then just in the corner, just all frail and obviously really, really weak where I've been so ill still. And yeah, so I was sick and it's more of a sick story rather than a sick note story, but yeah, I flooded the hallway of a hospital. But the shower, it was a good shower. It was a good shower. Yeah, I finished the shower. Couldn't dry myself, but that's bad. But no, as always, Jack, thank you for having me on. It's been good fun as always being the co-host. And one thing I will say is anybody who can check out my Formula E stuff on Race News 365. We are the world's #1 for daily Formula E content. I'm also pushing a lot more Formula E video content. Nick's notepad is returning in London as I actually have a videographer there with me. And be sure as well, this prize giveaway in collaboration with Mahindra is massive. We've pulled this off, I don't know, but yeah, make sure you're keeping on everything and all the support from all the communities. So appreciated.
Excellent.
Before we go, can I plug my Formula E blog too?
Go on then.
If you're on Discord, I'll leave the link in the share your content thing on the Discord. But yeah, I have blogged most sessions of the season. I've applied for accreditation for London, which I'm still awaiting the outcome for. So yeah, if you are an avid Formula E fan, if you're in the Discord, I will post a link to my blog in the share your content section there. Have a read, give me some feedback, let me know what you want to see more of, what doesn't work out, blah blah blah. And I will start writing my Portland roundup at some point this week. So I don't know when it's going to be published, but hopefully in the next 7 to 10 days, and
7 to 10
it'll all be
business
lead up to London. Not business days, just days in general. It just depends how much I'm working, when I'm working, blah blah blah.
Yeah, perfect stuff. Right, see us out, Natalie.
You've been watching the FE Bar with Jack Jordan and Nick Golding. If you want more like this and anything else, make sure to subscribe, like the video. The press conferences from last weekend are on the channel now. Go check those out. This has been your FE Bar post Portland. We will see you after the last race in London.
Good night.